Chapter 91. Second Semester 1. Boom! The air vibrated as she fell vertically from the training island, her landing causing an impact so violent it created a crater. Nevertheless, she just dusted off her clothes as if nothing happened. This is faster. Alan jumped straight out of the ground after free-falling from a height of 3,000 m, during which she kept her speed under control. Explain why you did it. She hadn't even walked a few steps yet when someone talked to her. Alan pressed a finger against her ear. What do you mean? I heard the news about yesterday. Aha, Tilda, that. It was part of the mission. We never gave you such a task. Alan laughed softly. As she expected, they didn't know how to listen properly. Yeah, Tilda, that's why I said it's only a part of it. The voice remained silent for a moment, allowing Alan to check if her robe was clean. If it were even just a bit dirty, the professor wouldn't like it. She felt like she got infected by his obsession with cleanliness. You don't need to feel more emotions than necessary for the subject. What? That was a bit out of the blue. She tilted her head, seemingly unable to understand, then smiled. No way. You know me. I didn't even know such a possibility existed until you told me. You're only given a 3-month extension, Ellie. Make sure you've got everything sorted out by then. She didn't reply. Instead, Ellie smiled broadly and hung up. Huh, over there. That's a supervisor over there? As she did, from the other side of the forest, 3 panting children came running to her. They had name tags labeled Carlos, Leo, and Leah on their chests. Are you a supervisor? Asked the only female among them. Ellie shook her head. No, I'm not. Tilda, what test are you taking? Oh, we're undergoing the adventurer exam. Ah, run. The trio turned around and grabbed Ellie's hand in surprise, causing her to look where they came from. Boom, bang, boom, bang. A large beast with a physique larger than a bear and antlers that could cut even steel appeared, charging in their direction. Bearhorn. If you're not a supervisor, you should evacuate immediately. It's okay. I'll stay behind. What? Go, please, she insisted with a smile. Albeit hesitantly, the 3 children left. Groo-woo-are, the Bearhorn roared, perhaps growing frustrated and enraged. Hello, bye. Ellie smiled and crossed her hands in the air. That was all it took. Reep. Its body split in 2 according to her hand gestures. As blood spurted from its open wound, she took a step towards its corpse, and the landscape around her immediately changed. From amid a forest, she now stood in the middle of a village market. 1 elny for 2 fish cakes. 1 elny. We have lots of medicinal herbs, Tilda. Feel free to take a look. Everyone, Tilda. Magic ingredients for sale? Buy from us, go to the floating island, and resell for a profit. The merchants' voices echoed loudly. After careful observation, she deduced she was at Rapon. I'll get to the island in an hour. Nodding with satisfaction, she approached the pavement to rest until her stride finished recharging. 2 fish cakes, please. Sure, here you go. What kind of magic was that earlier, though? You appeared out of nowhere. Ah, Tilda, you have good eyes, but don't worry about it. Ellie could manipulate space, and that didn't just mean she could move through it. Rather, she literally controlled space itself. Not only could she transfer her own space anywhere she desired, but she could also do the same for others. Naturally, it cost her enormous amounts of mana. She often used this talent to separate creatures' heads and bodies, allowing her to kill them with ease. If her opponent could resist magic or mana, it would take her a little more power. On the other hand, she could cut through the limbs of those significantly lower in rank than her in the blink of an eye. These fish cakes are delicious. Haha, eat as much as you want. They're only an elny for 2. Pretty cheap, right? Yeah, Tilda, I'll buy 2 more. She grabbed 2 fish cake skewers at the same time. Asterisk, the roadside of the Isle of Wizards' Wealth after the exams. Eferen followed Sylvia with Mayho. Can we really follow her like this? Mayho asked worriedly. Scratching the back of her neck, Eferen answered, We're not following her. We're walking together with her. Ah, Tilda, is that so, Tilda? Listening in on their conversation, their words caused Sylvia's ears to prick up, seemingly finding it ridiculous. Deciding not to say anything, she soon stopped amid one of the floating island's residential areas. Looking up at the sky involuntarily, Eferen felt astonished. Right above them was yet another residential area. What is that? While astounded, a wizard looked down at her as he took a newspaper out of a mailbox. Their eyes momentarily met before he went back into his house with a chuckle. A space division spell is used to maximize the floating island's residential area. You're stupid for not knowing that. Sylvia casually unlocked the front door of a building. The two moved closer to her. Is this your house? Yeah. Ephraim swallowed hard with envy. Oh my gosh, she has a property here in the Isle of Wizards' Wealth. She really is from another world. Aren't residences expensive here? 10 million elnies, they gasped. What? A house that size cost you 10 million elnies? Isn't that too expensive, Tilda? 10 million elnies was a huge amount for a residence, especially considering hers was only about 70 m2. That's just the way things work around here. Well, you're Sylvia after all, so you're not going to school anymore? She didn't answer. Feeling disappointed for reasons she couldn't fathom, Ephraim pouted. You'll come visit sometimes, right? When she nodded ever so slightly, her eyes widened. Huh, did you just nod your head? Yes. Sylvia had been thinking quite a bit about what she should do with Ephraim, eventually making up her mind to make her her own person. Having a rival was better for her than not anyway. I'll be coming here a lot now as well, so I'll be sure to visit you then. Me too, Tilda, me too, Tilda. She found Mayho or Myho, who came out of nowhere, a little annoying, but she nodded nonetheless. Well then, Sylvia, see you later. Stay safe, Tilda. The two smiled brightly at her before they closed the front door. Sylvia looked around her new home, where all her furniture and luggage had already been completely set. It was smaller compared to her mansion, but it was rather cozy. Moreover, she thought she'd feel lonely if it was too large since she'd be living by herself. Going into her bedroom first, she found her panda and familiar waiting for her. I'm home. Having given life to them using mana stones, they both flew towards her, with the panda using its cloak to do so. Sylvia took them in her arms and sat down on the bed. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. An empty room where only the clock moved. Bored, she took her art notebook and a pencil from the bedside table, drawing a portrait of a sharp, cold, and handsome man with captivating blue eyes. Dekilleen. ***, having returned to the Eucline mansion after so long, I immediately immersed myself in training and understanding. I had a lot to do, including mastering intermediate psychokinesis before it could drag on any further and practicing to control the snowflake obsidian to some extent. Snowflake obsidian understanding. 23.1% there was still a long way to go, but fortunately, 20% of it was equivalent to its corners, rendering that part of it manipulatable, at least. Not bad. Snowflake obsidian was metal as mysterious as its reputation. I aggregated its corners with psychokinesis, making it look like a ping-pong ball. Changing freely. Almost as if it had rubber-like attributes, it spread out like a cloth, then clustered up into a ball, lengthened to create a spike. Its sensitivity to psychokinesis was incomparable to any other metal. Knock, knock. Already knowing who was waiting outside my room, I held back my smile and opened the door from afar. I brought you snacks, Professor. Julie. After being unable to find her way during the altar invasion incident, she deemed herself a sinner. These days, she had taken over my servant's duties, perhaps to punish herself. Please enjoy. She put the tray containing food and coffee down on my desk. I shrugged. You don't have to worry too much, Julie. What could you do, having no sense of direction? She bit her lips slightly. Is your training going well? I just finished. I had stored 80% of the snowflake obsidian in my safe and turned the remaining 20% into a ball, hiding it in my inner pocket. A new semester is about to begin. Yes, we'll grow busy soon, you and me both. Smiling bitterly, she held out a document. What's this? After analyzing the floating population near the Eucline mansion, we identified a few among them that constantly roam around the area, but at irregular times. That's the list of all the people who exhibited suspicious movements outside the scope of the general public. Upon reading it, I found 33 individuals, but honestly, I thought this level of observation was natural. For the altar, imperial family, eunuchs, and other noble families, the Euclines were the most prominent existence they had to keep in check. Julie. Yes. Thank you. Perhaps surprised by my words, She scratched the back of her neck and turned her eyes to look at the bookshelf, only to find all the neatly arranged books in it were related to medicinal herbs. Seemingly coming to a realization, a soft smile spread across her lips. No. I should be the one thanking you. I was currently studying a way to heal Julie. No, I already knew the best method to do that. However, my greed to be with her was just too strong for me to put it into motion. You can go now. Thank you, have a good rest. After bowing once, she went outside. I was once again alone in this quiet annex. Taking a sip from the coffee and looking up at the night sky, I watched the stars twinkle in the dark. At that moment, I came to a realization. My drink was far too bitter. She made this herself, didn't she? She could have just asked another servant to do it. How the hell was I supposed to drink this? Shaking my head, I nevertheless finished it all, leaving not a drop behind. Asterisk, asterisk, beep, 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 beep. Through the half-open curtain, the mid-August sunlight poured into room 201 of the Imperial University's dormitory as an insanely loud alarm within it rang endlessly. Beep, 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 beep. Ugh, stop. Beep, beep, beep. Efren woke up with a groan. Ah. Her hangover, caused by too many celebration parties during the past few days, felt like it was crushing her head. Not only Julia and her club, but even people from her hometown came to visit her. I'm dying. She got up from her bed and stood in front of the sink. Staring at herself in the mirror, she turned on the faucet. Today's the day. Dekillian's assistant interview. Beyond her nervousness, Efren recalled an issue she hadn't resolved yet, the pendant. She muttered slowly, not having the slightest idea why he considered it precious, and why the hell he carried her picture with him. Maybe there's information about my father's death that even I didn't know about. If not, Efren looked at herself in the mirror. I do deserve to be admired, though. Even now, reeking of alcohol, she couldn't be considered ugly. If she put some makeup on, she would stand out even more above the rest. Even Julia couldn't help but praise her glamorous physique. Her grandparents also said that her beauty alone was like passing the civil service exam. I hope the professor doesn't have a crush on me. PFFFT. She laughed, finding the idea alone crazy, and warmed up the water in the sink. After that, she took off her pajamas and washed her face using fluid manipulation. Ah, the good days are gone now that the next semester is about to start, Tilda. After wearing a loose box t-shirt, baggy pants, a robe, and a backpack, she left the dormitory. Zing, zing, zing. Zing, zing, zing. The sounds of cicadas in midsummer echoed all around her. Passing through the sunny campus, she arrived at the Imperial University Tower. I'm doing this. For the first time as a solda, Efren got into the elevator and pressed the button to the 77th floor. Ding. Upon reaching her destination, however, she found it empty despite today being interview day, unlike Professor Luina's floor, which was extremely crowded. Oh, Solda Efren? You're here. Alan waved at her, remaining seated behind his desk in the hallway while waiting for interviewees. Hee. Solda Efren. I'm not a debutante anymore, she smiled as she walked up to him. May I come in? Yes, you're the last. Of course I would be, ahem. She coughed, then knocked. Come in. Dekillian was already waiting for her by the time she opened the door. As always, he looked proper. She walked over and sat in front of him. Efren. Yes. You're applying to be a teaching assistant, he asked, his voice as cold as always. Alan served as both his assistant professor and his teaching assistant. Hence, Efren didn't need to teach under Dekillian's command. It might be better for her career to work for him only after living a normal life and going through the merit exam. Yes, that's right. But she didn't want to waste time. She wanted to uncover the truth about the head professor and her father as quickly as possible, however. Good. I praise you for your determination. You passed. When he immediately accepted her application, deciding her fate in an instant, she grew terrified. Just like this? I only have 2 applicants. She didn't know how he could convey such miserable words using a cold and apathetic tone. Recalling that hundreds of soldas went to Luina, Efren almost laughed, but she swiftly discovered an error in Dekillian's words. Huh, wait, 2, that many? That many, Dekillian frowned. Efren quickly shook her head. Ah, that came out wrong. I'm just curious who the other one is. Drent. Drent, the one who plagiarized your thesis. I heard he already apologized. He did. Eferen received an apology so sincere from him she could barely stop him from getting down on his knees. But why did he apply under Dekulin, the very person who burned his thesis? Eferen. The head professor called out to her again. Yes. Since you'll be working as a research assistant while taking classes at the tower, you'll be given a salary. I left your research assignments before the start of the class to Alan. Don't forget to take them. Salary? Yes, all right. You may go now. As she got up, she glanced at Dekulin, who was already absorbed in paperwork. No, he could just be pretending to be absorbed when he was actually focusing all his attention on her. I'm going then. Eferen came out, running away from any possible future discomfort. As soon as she opened the door, Alan greeted her. Solda Eferen, congratulations on being a teaching assistant. What? Oh, ha, thank you. Follow me, let's go to the lab. Smiling, he guided her to the assistant's lab. That room on the 77th floor alone was much larger and cleaner than her dorm room. She could even sleep on its floor right now. As Eferen looked around in admiration, Alan spoke to her. This will be your table. Eferen gazed at where he was, finding a luxurious chair and desk, which was to be expected from Dekulin. She hung her backpack behind her chair. Now then, I'll be giving you your research assignment. Yes, please, thank you. Thud. A thick but familiar book landed on her desk, causing her to nod firmly. The Origin of Earth Properties. Its difficulty is quite high, but it's definitely worth studying. Yes, Tilda, that's right, Tilda, oh, this one too. Thud. Another book landed in front of her, causing her to feel slightly disconcerted. Oh, I didn't realize there'd be two of them. Isn't Rupalin's Records a fairly complicated spellbook? You're not wrong, Tilda, I almost forgot about this one. Thud, third book. Oh, these are part of your assignment as well. Wait, thud, thud, thud. Spellbooks began to pile up one after another. This too. Stop. This too. Please stop. No, there weren't only 4, 5, or 6 of them. Understanding Flames Sea Exploration, book overall property immersion harmony of the 4 major elements, the main axis of the 4 major elements wind calculations. There were 13 books in total. These are all research works. The professor's order is for you to learn them completely before the start of the semester. Dekulin intended to raise Eferen as a user of the 4 elements for his carbon research. Eferen unconsciously replied. Did he go nuts? No, you can't say such bad words. If you ever use slang, you might lose your teaching assistant position. Anyway, take this. Alan held out a small piece of paper to her. Already feeling paralyzed, she asked slowly, What is this? Oh. Professor Dekulin completely shouldered the cost of the magic books, but some of them have knowledge copyrights that haven't yet expired. As you might already be well aware of, while the books can be paid by someone else, knowledge copyrights must be paid by the wizard that'll use them themselves. Simply put, it was a receipt. The moment she looked at the numbers on it, she staggered. Even if they look a little expensive now, they are high-end magic books that you can't buy even if you pay 20 times the original price. Solda Eferen. Oh no. Eferen. 5 seconds later, she fainted. Haid Kane. Did he come again? Uriel analyzing documents such as the Rohalak concentration camp-related logs from the Empire and the Marek Underground Passages financial report frowned. Yes. He said he has something he needs to hand over to you. Since he's a member of the Imperial family, I have no power over him to make him leave. Instead, I was left with no choice but to welcome him in and leave him in a room. She let out a sigh. Jalang had once again come to their estate uninvited. What did he bring with him? Tell him to give it to you and go. You know he doesn't listen to me. Tusk, knock, knock. Hearing the sound, her butler glanced at the door and shook his head. Open it. All right. When he did, Jalang came into their sights as they unpleasantly expected. Hello, Uriel. Smiling shamelessly, he sat down in front of her, then gave an order to her butler. Leave us. After glancing over at Uriel, he left silently. The moment he did, the eunuch placed a necklace artifact on her desk. Take it. Gosh, you're audacious. How are you going to handle things later? Look, you will change your mind. He sounded strangely confident, which made Uriel gaze alternatingly between him and the item he brought. Jialang's unannounced visit was definitely suspicious. What kind of trick is this rat-looking guy trying to do? Come on, just take a look at it and I'll go away immediately. It didn't matter what it was. He wouldn't leave unless she did as he asked anyway. Hence, she decided to play along instead, ensuring she wouldn't fall for any of his deceptive tactics. Tusk. Clicking her tongue, Uriel picked up the necklace. Chapter 92. Haidkane's Castle. Uriel picked up the necklace on the desk. It seemed to be an artifact, specifically an accessory that recorded a certain scene. Take a look, Jialang suggested with a hand gesture. Uriel still had her suspicions about him, but she soon infused her magic into the crystal ball of the necklace. You only need to carry out your mission. No matter what the outcome is, Uriel will be kept imprisoned in the estate. Hearing a familiar voice, she began to watch the video in silence. That's all she's good for. Jialang observed her expression carefully, but she wasn't sloppy enough to show her agitation in front of her foes. I'm certain of it. Her every move remains insignificant, yet she's even added surveillance to her list of duties. Along with his voice, it partially reflected Dakillian's figure. He was sitting on a fancy chair at their mansion, swirling a glass of wine with a frown on his face. If she's going to do something stupid, Dakillian looked at his company. She couldn't see who it was, but their red hair stood out. I'm certain you already know what to do even if I don't say it. The video ended. It was short, but according to the date of the recording, it happened last year. Jialang smiled. I think you as a wizard can confirm the authenticity of this artifact better. That's not all. He then held out a piece of some sealed paper. Red hair isn't common, so I looked it up and found out that. Jialang obtained certain documents by mobilizing all his connections in the Adventure Guild, demonstrating his power to break through even those that prioritized trust and loyalty above all else. Look at the target. Uriel checked the paragraph he pointed to in the Ainz contract. Guild Submission Agreement Overview. The Red Garnet adventurers faithfully must fulfill the mission assigned by Dakillian von Grahan Uklein. Target: Uriel von Delun Uklein. Content: verbally delivered for security. Asterisk client has paid for the first-class confidentiality fee, preventing the details from being written in this contract. Seal. I don't know what kind of mission it is, but with you as its target, it's obvious. Moron. What? However, Uriel's reply was far beyond what Jialang expected. Looking at him, she smiled. Nothing, I was just wondering if you only learned of our poor relationship now. Haha, really? The way you talk would make anyone think I devoted myself to the estate's work because I like Dakillian so much. Enough. If your business is over, just piss off. Much like her, Jialang wore no expression as well. Instead, he spoke calmly. If so, then you understand what I want to say even better. Even better, my ass. Are you really a complete moron? You can't even seem to understand the words piss off. He displayed a soft smile when she cursed, but when she spoke again, his face hardened. Freaking dickless bastard. He clenched his fist hidden under the desk as lines of humiliation and shame ran through his eyes. Jialang trembled. Uriel just twisted the corners of her lips upward. What are you looking at? I said piss off. You'll regret this one day. After leaving that threat, Jialang slammed the door shut. Uriel, quietly staring at his disappearance with the knights of the Imperial Palace, immediately shifted her gaze to the necklace and contract on the desk. Miss. When her butler entered the room, Uriel looked out the window quietly. In the passageway, she could hear loud sounds coming from Jialang's explosion of anger, but the night itself had finally regained its peace. She stared at the starry sky. Hey, she muttered, her voice filled with sorrow. Yes. I think Dakillian never intended to keep his promise from the beginning. She traced the contract and the necklace with her finger, admitting he had successfully fooled her until now. He told her he'd even swear an oath on the surface, but actually performed such dirty deeds behind the scenes. Though he reassured her repeatedly, it was all part of his plan to use her and throw her away at some point. Is that so? Dakillian only promised verbally, possibly already knowing she would reject his notion to take an oath since they were still members of the same family in the end. Believing his words, she received nothing but betrayal in return. That damned bastard. What should I do? She knew, at the very least, not to tell him any of this. She shouldn't show even the slightest sign of her being aware of his plans. Jialang wouldn't speak to him first anyway. He came to her to prevent Dekuline from gaining more power than necessary, after all. No, this estate has long been on your side. Those words were reassuring, but Uriel felt a sense of sadness she couldn't quite grasp in the corner of her heart. Did she still desire to become closer with the one she called older brother? Thank you. You may go back. All right. Rest well, miss. As soon as her butler left, Uriel turned off all the lights, allowing the light of the night sky outside the window to pour into the Lord's office. In the darkness, she played the necklace's video again. Listening to Dekuline's cold words and looking at the contract more intently, Uriel secretly wiped away her tears. Asterisk. Students began returning with their suitcases, the rivalry and cheers between the knights occasionally resounding. Likewise, the dormitories and shopping streets returned to their ordinary lives. From the campus's atmosphere alone, it could already be inferred that the reopening of the Imperial University was imminent. Head Professor. Students heading back for college from their hometowns or other countries enjoyed a peaceful break while waiting for their classes to begin. But their educators spent their time quite differently. Both the undergraduate professors and the magic professors busied themselves with class preparation. Here I found it, Alan said, approaching me. She was about to leave at the end of the last semester, but seemed to have decided to stay a little longer. These are the old plans you mentioned before. She held out a pile of documents. Ephraim's father, my still-veiled friend, had previously written a lesson plan proposal. I intended to consult it for my second semester class. I read through the papers. Lecture title: Pure use of the four major elements. Its essence was to enable the students to handle elements in a purer manner, but it was obvious why Dekuline didn't accept it. After all, it was a theoretical lecture so advanced it should be taught to, in modern terms, masters and doctoral students instead of undergraduates. I think it's going to be a pretty advanced course. Ah, advanced? Alan's eyes widened in surprise. I nodded, causing her to fill up with awe. I thought of changing its scope to a more appropriate one in a way that suited my aptitude, perhaps along the line of pure use of the four major elements. Manipulation series, or pure use of earth and fire. Dekuline's talented with the manipulation series, and his attributes were earth and fire. Okay, good work. You may go back. Oh, this one's for you as well. It arrived earlier. Alan handed over an entire sponsorship package. It would probably contain just one letter from Ephraim again, though. Then I'll be going tilde. After Alan left, I opened it. To my sponsor. I am solde Ephraim. As you might have already noticed, I've been promoted to the next rank now. I'm not a debutante anymore, but I feel unhappier now than before after I volunteered under the guidance of a vicious professor named Dekuline. Of course, I did it of my own will, and I have no regrets about it, but that blue snail is far more vicious than I omitted. Thought. Because of him, I, unfortunately, had no choice but to use most of your precious donations in an instant. As far as I know, I paid for several knowledge copyrights, but all that registered in my mind was that my budget disappeared like a snail gnawing on wood. Regardless, I, solde Ephraim, promise you that I'll surpass that blue snail one day, sponsor. I will become a wizard great enough to prove your choice to support me wasn't wrong. Until then, I'll be shortening my letters. With kind regards, solde Ephraim. A blue snail. I folded it up and put it in the drawer. Afterward, I turned on a crystal ball that displayed the interior of the teaching assistant's lab. Through the hologram, I saw Ephraim studying and Drent in the middle of research. It feels empty. That room could easily fit dozens of people together and had a lot of high-end equipment. Even its desks, chairs, air purifiers, and thermostats were all top-notch. However, it was only occupied by 2 people. If only Sylvia were sitting with them. But this was better. Class attitude, comprehension, talent, she was perfect at everything. She must be doing well on the floating island. Moreover, the Eucline and Iliad were enemies. If we stayed together longer than we already did, I didn't know what kind of insanity Glython would do. Coming to terms with it, I walked out of the office. Today's job was an investigation as the head of the Financial Planning and Coordination Office. My first destination was Luina's office on the 43rd floor. She consumed the most money these days, after all. Ding! As soon as I got out of the elevator, I frowned. There were way too many wizards in the hallway. "Oh, welcome, Chief Executive Officer," Luina said, having noticed my appearance. "There are quite a lot of teaching assistants here." "Oh, them, I'm holding an internship period." "Internship?" "Yes. How many interns do you have?" 100. There were too many. Even after careful examination, I only managed to narrow them down to 100 people. Her voice sounded indifferent. Honestly, I didn't care at all. Any 10 of her interns wouldn't be as good as Drent, and even if one were to combine all 100 of them, they still wouldn't be as good as Eferen. "This floor seems infested with cockroaches," I blurted out before I could hold it back. At that moment, the chattering in the crowded hallway stopped. All of Luina's 100 teaching interns looked at me almost simultaneously, but they immediately rushed back to their work when our eyes met. She crossed her arms. "Cockroaches? That's going too far. Just give me the report. Here, I have it all sorted out." She swiftly handed me a document, almost as if she had been expecting me. I glanced through it and put it in my briefcase. "Oh, right, Chief Executive Officer. I heard you took the Luna family kid under your guidance." "I did. She does have talent. What are you going to do with that child?" Our gazes met in silence. Now that I thought about it, I realized she was our classmate back then, Deculine and Eferen's father. She probably knew even a little about their relationship. Luina continued. "Well, that's the head of the Financial Planning and Coordination Office to take care of. Anyway, here, this is an invitation to a Lochralen conference. We invite Professor Deculine to the Lochralen Society. Welcome." Lochralen Society. Above that sentence, a quest popped into the air. Main quest. Bizarre Lochralen Society store currency +1, mana +50. Lochralen considered as one of the main quests of wizard players. I received their invitation. "Are you coming too?" "What?" "Oh, I'm busy with work." "That Lochralen ticket gives you 3 more people to take with you, so feel free to take anyone." ***, "Oh, Sylvia, you came." Rose Rio greeted Sylvia, who now lived on the Isle of Wizard's Wealth. Today's meeting place was the Penta Hall, the most famous and spacious library on the floating island, on the 10th floor of the Medjisen. Sylvia had long wanted to enter it since it was known for having a collection of all the books in the world. "Take this. It's your daily pass." Only 5th rank Lumiere, wizards or higher could enter it, but 2nd rank Etheric or higher could control access to it. Accordingly, Rose Rio had the power to allow Sylvia into its premises. "Thank you." "Sure, let's go now, Tilda." The Etheric wizard opened the door, her body language saying she was used to it. Upon entering it, Sylvia blankly admired the scent of books and this vast expanse that utilized the entirety of Medjisen's 10th floor as a library. "It's spacious." "Right." The Archmage's barrier magic even further magnifies this place's size. It might even be larger than the continent at this point. That said, almost every book in the world is here, and not just the magic books. We have common books, too. "Can I borrow any of them?" "Only 3 volumes. You'll also have to pay for the knowledge copyrights of those with authorship attached to it." "Knowledge copyrights?" "Yeah, exactly." Sylvia nodded, realizing Rose Rio was unable to utter complex pronunciations. "This is a leisure center. If you're looking for something, just ask that kid. He's a library addict." Arriving at the library's information desk, she pointed to the robed wizard. Sylvia tilted her head. "Library addict?" "Yes. There are many addicts here, but that guy's the most useful. He knows which books are in this library and where they are." It's almost as if his brain has turned into the Penta Hall itself. Sylvia nodded and walked over to him. "You have any of Deculine's books?" "There are 10 of Deculine's writings here, 2 of which are under protection." Rose Rio's eyes widened. "Why are you looking for his works?" "Almost all of his literature are garbage except for these 3. She waved her hand in the middle of the library and pulled out the assembly of pure elements, complexity of 4 major elements, and the elemental creation method. After these three, Deucalion lost it. He has returned from the dead now, though. Anyway, these three are the achievements that helped him become the head professor the most. By then, I must have been in my mid-teens or something. I still don't believe he wrote it. Even now, with him achieving great success, many people still think those three theses are his greatest creations. Sylvia turned around upon hearing another voice, finding Gindalf stroking his beard. Rose Rio pouted. "What are you doing here, old man? Why did you have to come and interrupt my explanation? Won't Sylvia soon be on par with us? I just came to see her for myself." Gindalf smiled kindly and looked at the solder-anked wizard. Coming to the floating island was a good choice. What you can learn at the tower is far too limited. "Oh, Sylvia, did you know he fought against the Euclines for the Iliad family?" "Ahahaha. There's no need to tell her that." Gindalf sided with them during the Iliad-Eucline clan war in the past since he grew up with their support, but also because he didn't like the other faction's former head. "Thank you." After expressing her gratitude, Sylvia looked at the addict at the info desk again. Which one is Deucalion's most recent work? This one. Eucline Revision, Understanding Pure Elements. A book popped in the air as soon as the addict stretched his hand out, but it caused Rose Rio to smile bitterly and shake her head. "Oh, you can't rent that?" "Why?" "Because Deucalion sold it only to a limited number of people." "Yes." Only 17 people were given a copy, and all of them provided great reviews. Even I couldn't read it, but there was praise from Lumiere Credo saying it's the best textbook that combines the basics of pure elements with advanced courses. "Credo?" "Yes." Astal, the addict in charge of reviewing it, also included it in the 100 theory books the Isle of Wizards' wealth must preserve. Simultaneously, he praised Professor Deucalion, saying, "It opens the possibility for an era where the vague concept of pure elements can be firmly established." Rose Rio pouted as she heard those words. "I mean, it's weird. If it was that great, why didn't he sell it to the public? That's why only a few know how impressive its contents are in the first place. Honestly, even I want to read it." "Can I borrow it at least?" she asked again. "No, you can't." "Yes, you can, sold to Sylvia." The addict refuted Rose Rio's words, causing her to frown. Why? How can this kid borrow it if even I can't?" Like a machine, his head turned to look at her. "She's on the list of individuals Monarch Deucalion's authorized to read it." "Her?" "Yes." Rose Rio looked at her, finding her blank expression. Behind them, Gindalf stroked his beard with interest. "Did you know about this?" "No," she shook her head blankly. "Would you like to borrow it?" the addict asked. "Why, yes, I do." As she stuttered, Eucline Revision, Understanding Pure Elements, landed in her small hand. She stared at it, fiddling with its soft cover. Rose Rio licked her lips. "Can I take a look at it too?" "No, tell me what's in there later. I'm curious. Hey, where are you going?" "You're so mean." Not wanting to hear more, Sylvia turned around and ran away. Asterisk. Teaching assistant's lab, late evening. "I can't do it. How can I finish all of these before classes start?" Ephraim yelled. She was already about halfway through her third book, The Harmony of the Four Major Elements. "Are you okay?" Drent asked in a concerned tone. He had been experimenting with magic sensitization using mana stones right beside her. Ephraim took a deep breath. "Why did you apply as Deucalion's teaching assistant? Were you threatened, as the rumors say?" There was a lot of gossip about the reasons why he chose the head professor despite having a bright future ahead. No, it was almost a theory that Deucalion threatened him. "Threatened?" Drent shook his head as if it wasn't true at all. "I came here because he corrected my mistake right away. I still feel bad about you, though. I guess I went crazy back then at the practical exam." "It's okay." "Well, I mean, that just means my idea was that appealing." "Haha, yes, it was. I'm sorry." "Don't worry about it anyway." Ephraim looked at the piles of books on her desk. There were 13 of them in total, but if they were to be converted into volumes with regular lengths, there'd be around 60 of them since each of them had around 700 to 800 pages. "I have 13 difficult tomes to study. This doesn't make sense." And because of their knowledge copyrights, she ran out of sponsorship money. At this point, she thought she would never be able to eat rohawks for the rest of her life. Drent laughed bitterly. Can I help you with anything? No, the professor left, right? Yeah, 2 hours ago. Oh, Tilda, then I'll leave too. I need to rest. Yeah, bye. Since Drent seemed to have a lot of work left, Ephraim left him behind and went out of the room. However, as she was about to get on the elevator, she looked at the door at the end of the hallway. Head professor's lab. Gulp. She swallowed hard without realizing it. In the past, her father told her he hid his research records in D'Killeen's laboratory. Since D'Killeen was closely monitoring his research to make sure he didn't take it out, he had no choice but to stay in there. Hence, he progressed with his research using only the dimmest lamp. He said he left 2 hours ago. Ephraim looked around the 77th floor, which had already been engulfed in darkness. There was no way someone other than them would be here at this ungodly hour in the first place. She slowly sneaked into the head professor's lab with her heels up, taking her 3 minutes to reach a distance that could normally be covered in 30 seconds. With cold sweat running down her forehead, she grabbed the doorknob and pushed it slightly, causing the door to open. Ephraim was terribly surprised. It wasn't locked. No, or it was locked, but the moment Ephraim touched it, it opened. Could it be that her father arranged it that way for her? There was only darkness inside the laboratory. Surveying the surroundings, she found nothing suspicious in the empty darkness. Ephraim crawled silently like a slug through the tiles, following her father's word about his papers being hidden under one of them. Once you touch it, you'll know. Where is it? Which tile was he talking about? It's definitely not this one. She conjured mana in her palm to use as a source of light since she couldn't see anything and kept going. Soon enough, her hand touched something hard. I found it. Ephraim grabbed its pointy part, but no matter how much she shook it, it did nothing. Upon closer inspection, she noticed it looked like some kind of footwear. What was it? Ephraim looked up, puzzled. In that instant, her brain stopped functioning and her body stiffened. Malevolent blue eyes were gazing down on her in a straight line. Ephraim realized it too late. Her father made no arrangement for this laboratory's door. What are you looking for? It was just that the owner of the lab hadn't left yet. Chapter 93, Second Semester 3. What are you looking for? D'Killeen asked in the dark lab. Quietly letting go of his shoe, she floundered the floor with her robe's sleeves as if swimming. I was cleaning the floor like this. Do you think I'll believe that? It works, though. I'm sorry. Ephraim got up, making excuses while stuttering. I thought the door was open, and why you had turned off the lights. Every now and then I find myself in need of darkness. Snap! D'Killeen flicked his fingers, turning on the lights in the lab. As the darkness inside went away, Ephraim's jaw dropped in astonishment. Huh. Magic papers filled with formulas and magic circles floated around them. It numbered well over several thousand. Ephraim, still lacking in skills, couldn't even predict what the result of such an enormous set of operations could be. Snap. With another snap of his fingers, all the documents flowed into his briefcase. Is that briefcase itself also a magical item? She looked at D'Killeen in awe. Was that your personal research? No, I'm preparing a course. What? A course? Go. D'Killeen left as well, allowing her to walk away without reprimanding, criticizing, or giving her a penalty point. Shouldn't he scold me? Ephraim, looking at his back, squatted down. She quickly turned over a couple of tiles before leaving the lab. Huh. Get in. With him waiting for her in the elevator, she scratched the back of her neck. Sorry for making you wait. He didn't say anything. Even after she got in, he just pressed the close button silently. Zing, the elevator went down. She felt like it lasted for an eternity. She glanced at him, recalling Jindalf's words about him valuing her, which she thought to be nonsensical back then. But since she heard those remarks, she began to see this professor's each and every action in a strangely different light. He was still her father's enemy and a very mean, vicious person who gave her impossible research assignments. But, Professor D'Killeen. Ding, the elevator door opened. When he exited and looked back at her, she shook her head hurriedly. It's nothing. After a brief pause, he took a ticket out of his inner pocket. Take it. Ephraim looked at it. Invitation to Lochralen Society Lochralen. It was a word even Ephraim had never heard of. You'll go with me. After uttering those words, he left, his stride seemingly wide, perhaps because of his long legs. Ephraim could only stare at his back with the ticket in her hand as the distance between them widened. I have no idea why he keeps acting like that. She sighed. ***, the next day, early morning at the top floor of the tower. The chairman accepted my lecture plan and the first-class material. Pure use of earth and fire. Manipulation series overview. This course will provide an in-depth understanding of attributes using the deep utilization of earth and fire elements. Rating. Advanced. Description. Its purpose is great, but only the Isle of Wizards' Wealth can approve of advanced rating or higher. They might even decide to lower it to the intermediate level. It's fine. I nodded at the chairman's words. Classes of advanced level were rare even in the Imperial University Tower. What about the related materials? Here. I submitted the documents that would serve as the core of the class, which I had prepared with understanding. Concentrating on earth and fire attributes and the manipulation series, it would be almost like a thesis. I hope it gets rated the advanced level too. Our tower's status would rise. Bang. The chairman stamped on the syllabus. Yes. Then you can go now, I'm sleepy. She moved her hand like Bracken and spread out a futon on top of her desk. Adrian Roman II, come. Woof, woof. Adrian Roman II jumped over the desk. As I left, the chairman fell asleep with the little puppy. 6 hours later, rumors often spread rapidly on the floating island. However, they were limited only to magical and scientific subjects. They had no interest in common gossip like what happened to the Empire, who was cheating with whom, and the like. That being said, half a day was enough for intel regarding a new magical discovery or a thesis to spread throughout the island. Advanced lecture. Likewise, news of D'Killian's advanced lecture reached Rose Rio swiftly. These were the words of Prince Credo, whom she met by chance. That's what I heard. I wonder what verdict it'll get. It's going to be held in a magic tower, not in this place. Magic Tower's lectures usually stopped at the beginner or intermediate level. Of course, their difficulty levels differed since not all of them were the same despite being in the same rating. However, advanced lectures were slightly different. According to the definition of advanced in the magic world, those rated with it could cause a generation to achieve qualitative development or create new values. In that respect, the Isle of Wizards' Wealth was extremely strict with its implementation. In fact, for nearly 20 years now, all advanced-level classes and above had been only available on the floating island. The stereotype that academic studies were only done on that island, while worldly studies were conducted at magic towers, wasn't created out of pure coincidence. In the first place, even on the Isle of Wizards' Wealth, there were only a handful of advanced classes. Very few high-ranking wizards had both enough knowledge to teach someone and the skills to actually impart such intricate information in an understandable way. Moreover, they only opened classes when they felt like it. I don't know, since it's Sir D'Killian, he might just get it. Why do you refer to him as Sir? The Imperial family shouldn't respect anyone. I'm his fan, ha ha ha, Credo laughed. Looking at him now, she realized his clothes were also quite strange. I just realized you're dressed like D'Killian. There is no one in the system these days who doesn't follow D'Killian's fashion. That aside, it would be amazing if it was judged as advanced. I'm skeptical about that, though. As Rose Rio ate her spaghetti, she overheard the conversation from the table next to them. They talked about D'Killian preparing for an advanced class as well. Can't you go and take the class? It's been a while since I graduated, but you're nominally on a leave of absence. That's true, but if it's judged as advanced, everyone here will grow anxious anyway. Then we'll be able to get holographic lectures, lecture transcripts, or whatever. That's always been the case, hasn't it? The Isle of Wizards' Wealth was the richest in the world, and there were only people crazy about academics up here. Hence, its population's general stance had always been, if you don't sell it to us, we'll take it through other means. Sellers could name their price when transacting with this place, but if they refused to negotiate in the first place, they'd be considered the floating island's enemy. That's true. Oh, right. There's also a conference going on in Lochralen. Aren't you going? I didn't even get an invitation. I've been a little neglectful of my research these days. Is that so? Rose Rio narrowed her eyes and pulled out a ticket. Do you want one? ***, 2 weeks before the start of class, Solda Eferen was looking into her Ouija board in their club room. From Solda, establishing your series becomes the most important aspect of magic since differences occur in that regard, unless the properties involved are very specific. Therefore, the class unconditionally focuses on that aspect. It was the advice of a senior wizard. Establishing a series is important. Eferen crossed her arms and thought about it. There were 8 basic series categories in total: summoning and spiritual, destruction and auxiliary, manipulation and ductility, hunting and harmony. The distinctions between them seemed to be made more clearly from Solda. Half of the Magic Tower wizards choose only one series, which we refer to as series deepening. The other half is divided into those who have plural series, in which they equally learn 2 or more of them, and those that have a main series and a sub-series, which means they focus on one series more and use the other as support. Eferen nodded. Most wizards chose no more than 2 categories. Of course, one could pretend to be crazy and try 3 or more series simultaneously, but in that case, it would be obvious how many classes they'd have to take. What's Professor de Killian's series? De Killian? I heard he has 4: manipulation, ductility, destruction, and auxiliary. Julia answered, sitting next to her. Glancing at her, Eferen noticed a new expensive-looking artifact necklace around her neck. She heard that the pig's flower was doing great these days, and her buying such a valuable item evidenced that. She felt envious. Doesn't that mean he's a 4-series wizard? Yeah, then me too. Eferen decided destruction, auxiliary, manipulation, and ductility. If de Killian could do it, she could too. What? Have you gone crazy, Iffy? You'll have to take tons of classes. Humph, it's okay. Do you know what I'm studying these days? Professor de Killian gave her 13 high-difficulty books to research. If Eferen couldn't understand a thesis, she'd have to study its research paper first. If that also proved incomprehensible, she'd have to visit new professors, including Kellogg, for advice. Well, you're even sleeping in the club room these days, Iffy. Yeah, pillows, blankets, duvets, toothpaste, toothbrushes, and more. The room was filled with her belongings. Then how will you apply to the classes? If you want to go to 4 series, you'll have to take 12 classes about them per semester. Ahem. Eferen coughed and looked at the registration list through the Ouija board. Huh, he's not teaching debutantes anymore. De Killian's lecture caught her eyes. Pure use of earth and fire. Manipulation series professor. Head Professor de Killian. Overview. This course will provide an in-depth understanding of attributes using the deep utilization of earth and fire elements. Core materials. Head Professor de Killian's personal works. Credits, 6 credits, 3 hours every 2 weeks. Registration procedure. Students will be selected by the aforementioned educator among applicants. Lecture rating, to be announced at a later date. Wow, a 6-credit course? Julia laughed in surprise. Seeing that paragraph, Eferen also expressed her shock. How can it be worth 6 credits when it's only held every 2 weeks? Is it because he's the head professor? Right, don't take this, Iffy. It'll be extremely difficult. If I take this, and one more basic lecture worth 1 or 2 credits, I'll be able to meet my quota for the manipulation class. Yeah, but it's 6 credits every 2 weeks. It'll probably be extremely difficult. If you fail to follow even once, it'll be hard to recover. There will also be a selection process, so just applying to it won't be enough. It's okay. She had been overflowing with confidence these days. She had read a total of 2 advanced magic books recently and was in the middle of the 3rd. She knew literary works and lectures were different, but... I can do it. Whose daughter does he think I am? Eferen clenched her fists and nodded. ***, study room, Imperial Palace. I heard the Rohalak concentration camp is almost complete, Sofian uttered. I looked down at her, finding it a bit absurd. Having become more comfortable as her lessons progressed, she ended up lying down completely today. Yes, the mana stones are also circulating smoothly in the market right now. It's only natural for those at the top who have been controlling the market through unity to suffer huge losses. That's true, she grinned. Nevertheless, there are quite a few of them that didn't seem to have been affected at all, most likely because they didn't spend any money to mine the mana stones. She drew her finger in the air and continued speaking. That begs the question, however, of how it was possible not to expend anything to do such a task. I'd say the answer is that the altar members in the underworld mined the mana stones at a low price or for free. Perhaps. With just one opening, we were able to filter quite a few high-ranking individuals. She was still grinning, but her eyes remained serious. Dequilline. Yes. Here, take this. It's a list of those who received money from the altar. There were a total of 13 high-level people in it. She murmured coldly, I don't care if you label them a demon blood member or a criminal. You can kill them yourself. As you wish. I'll have the imperial family confiscate all their properties afterward. Sophian frowned and tilted her head. It doesn't matter if you take them all for yourself. It's better not to have any wealth that can cause trouble. I had to carefully ensure the concentration of power wouldn't fall on the Eucline any more than necessary. That left a dissatisfied expression on her, almost as if she suggested it while completely knowing that fact. Have it your way. Regardless, I'll be ordering the full-scale demon blood subjugation to begin now. Okay. You'll have to catch them as well. I've already completed my investigation. I'll soon be bringing you good news. Is that so? Sophian raised her eyebrows at my words. The day I promised Caraxel was approaching. After arresting him, I'd take him to Rohalak. Yes, if the operation is successful, I'll be dropping them in Rohalak to serve as an example. However, before that, looking at her, I grew silent. Realizing what I meant, she grinned and recited a word. Hebrewesh Hebrewe Hebrutet Hebrewe Hebrutet, meaning vibration. It was a rune that made one's brain cry. Good job. I got up. Sophian, still lying down, looked up at me. Dequilline. Yes, you always make me do annoying things. No, you're the only one that bothers me. Her hair had become disheveled, and her pupils relaxed, symbolizing her lethargy and the boredom she was suffering from at the moment. Dequilline. She called me again. Yes. Aren't you afraid of me? Those words carried so much meaning and weight it would be natural for any citizen of the Empire to have their hearts pounding if they were asked that by the Emperor. Nevertheless, I didn't think about its implications. Without hesitation, I answered. I'm not. Cheeky, why? I don't know. It's very strange, I replied, looking into her eyes. I'm not afraid of anything in this world. This wasn't a lie. I just hated the phenomenon of death that would come in the distant future. The vague feeling that one day I would lose myself as Kim Woojin, and the possibility that Julie would leave me. Feeling the emotion of hate before fear, perhaps best described, and expressed this very Dequilline-like ego. I'll be going. I ended today's lesson with that. Yeah, get out of here, you cheeky bastard. Next time you come, bring a demon blood with you. Sophian laughed. **, end of August. A road in the eastern part of the continent. Caraxel solidified his fortitude once more as he moved and hid in the luggage compartment of a wagon. He left his 3 children to his wife and younger brother. Afterward, he entrusted his duties and position at the Cradle of Trees to a Lessal. Now, the rest was up to him. Captain, do you really believe in that professor? It is not too late to back out yet, said Dihal, who decided to accompany him to the camp. Caraxel shook his head. I've already decided to trust him. Don't try to interfere. No, it's just a simple transaction. Dihal, you didn't tell anyone about this, did you? If one wanted to deceive the world, they'd have to deceive their allies first. That was why he didn't tell anyone about his plan. Not even the Cradle of Trees or his wife and children. Otherwise, information would have definitely leaked out. Yes. Naturally. Only the 2 of us. Thud, the carriage stopped. Caraxel and Dihal swallowed hard. Tap, 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 exactly 3 footsteps. He wondered if the driver was quarreling with someone. Not long after, the whole carriage was smashed and soared into the sky. While he remained suspended in the air for a few moments along with the wreckage, Caraxel saw a certain individual staring at him from the ground. Dequilline. Rumble. Crashing onto the road surface with all kinds of wood chips, Caraxel grabbed his back. You see this as ordinary luggage. Ah, that's, Professor. Look at this bastard's face. A knight, holding a poster Dequilline had given him beforehand, pointed at him with good timing. He even grew his beard and hair to resemble the person in the photo. That's right, I'm Brolin, an officer of the demon blood. Deucalion twisted his lips into a smile silently, making him admire his contempt-filled performance. Maybe it wasn't acting. Yeah, you shouldn't have told anybody. Caraxel jumped up and started a riot at the promised signal out of desperation, but the knights rushed in before he could do anything, crushing him with their bodies. Meanwhile, the professor picked up his bag. Isn't there anything other than this bag? There are many mana stones. Deucalion ripped off the bag and dropped it on the pavement, causing plain equipment and tableware to litter the ground. Are you trying to sell these off somewhere? What should we do with these mana stones, Professor? There are quite a few of them. A knight asked, his voice filled with anticipation. That greed was the reason why Caraxel had to prepare the mana stones in the first place, to distract them. That, too, is evidence, but we only need a couple for that purpose, don't we? Deucalion said, discreetly sliding the mundane items scattered around into a bag with psychokinesis. Oh, yes, thank you. They bowed thoughtlessly. Caraxel smiled inwardly. Now, once the contents of that bag came into the camp, he would be able to feed his family. You scum bastard. At that moment, a knight struck his forehead with the hilt of his sword, causing him to pass out immediately. *** 3 days later, the Emperor's lounge at the Imperial Palace. That cheeky bastard is really good at what I asked him to do. He catches demon blood like he's just buying ice cream. Sophian grinned as she ate a genuine Hiadran marbled ice cream. That's right, he's a very talented professor. Charon answered, wrapping his right wrist with a bandage. Is that Brolin person going straight to Rohalak? Yes. He's guilty of organizing an association, but he has no records of committing other crimes, allowing him to avoid the death penalty. Well, Rohalak would be a far worse fate than a quick and easy death. As soon as Sophian nodded, she threw away her leftover ice cream and went back to bed. Gosh, I'm even tired of eating these days. How were you injured? You're fucking bandaging it, she mumbled sullenly amid a yawn. Charon shrugged, fiddling with his swollen right hand. Zeit came to the island. He's a total monster now. Did you lose to him? Is there any knight on this continent who can defeat him? He's even more powerful than my father right now. At his words, she grinned. The Emperor's knight is acting like an asshole. If I study a little harder, I'd probably win against him. Are you even studying at all? Why did Zeit come? He's looking for a wedding venue. Sophian pursed her lips. If that were the case, then it had to be for Deucalion and that knight Julie. Is that so? Did that mean he was going to get married? He said he had nothing to fear, so he probably wasn't afraid of marriage that would forever affect his life. Indifferently, Sophian nodded as Charon observed her reaction, pretending not to. Chapter 94. Caraxel, a wanted demon blood under the alias of Brolin, was captured along with Hal, another wanted person from their clan. The eunuch's anger, including Jalang, burst as soon as they heard about Deucalion's achievement. However, they had no choice but to let the trial proceed steadily. In the end, over 1,000 demon bloods, including Caraxel and Hal, were condemned to Rohalak as punishment. Not even Public Safety Bureau Deputy Director Lilia Primian could object against it. Faster, you cockroaches. Move. Hey, that old man over there? Yeah, you want to die. With Rohalak engulfed in a 45-degree heat wave, Uriel watched the captured and rope-bound demon bloods inside the car with a cool breeze blowing through the thermostat. We haven't contacted the Red Garnet adventurers yet. But none of it caught Uriel's interest. She had only anguish in her mind. However, the items you asked for are ready, miss. Her vassals and butler moved more steadily for her sake. As her loyalists, they also suggested the most extreme but effective method to break through this situation. If war proved unavoidable, if they had no choice but to die and kill each other, it would be ideal for them to launch a surprise preemptive attack. I told him as clearly as I could that if he breaks his promise, I will never forgive him, Uriel whispered coldly. Her butler in the driver's seat lowered his head. You did. But not yet. Keep looking. Scour around the underworld as well. I need reliable information, which is why we must contact Gainsha no matter what. Yes, we'll move through the underground guild. Uriel created an organization that worked directly against the suppress the Eucline family. Ironically, however, it was now tasked to repress Deculine, the head of the very family they protected. That would be ideal, but don't let those damn eunuchs get even the slightest clue of our operation. Of course. Okay, thank you. Answering helplessly, she looked out of the window. Stop acting weak, you demon bastards. Move, damn cockroach bastards. Their prisoners were stripped of their core energy and had their hair shaved. Afterward, they were forced to bask naked amid the wasteland's heat, before being caged behind sweltering iron bars. If all of Deculine's words proved true, if he really intended to use and throw her away, she made sure she wouldn't be as helpless as the demon bloods where Uriel clenched her fists, solidifying her determination. Asterisk, the full moon cast a white mist onto the Eucline territory, causing the evening to appear strangely crestfallen and gelid. But I couldn't care less. I was far too focused on reading books in the mansion's library. Curse and Pharmacy, about immunity, herbs collection, Zealand's medical dictionary, advanced herbal combination method. Studying pharmacy has become a part of my routine now. In my attempt to unravel all the possible ways to heal Julie, I looked for and read almost every relevant book and article I could find. Using vision on myself, I brought out the results. Pharmaceutical knowledge level. Advanced, 37%. It was very strange. Psychokinesis, which I had been trying to master for more than half a year now, was barely progressing through the intermediate level. On the other hand, my pharmaceutical knowledge has already reached advanced after studying it for just a couple of months. They say one is enlightened as much as they learn. I sighingly muttered. As I accumulated more knowledge and learned more about medicine, I grew unable to deny it. This helplessness of mine was causing rage within me. The wounds Julie was carrying, the scars that Deculine inflicted, were impossible to detoxify with standard methods. But there was a way. It was to use the game's trigger, which wasn't at all common. If Julie hates me. If I pushed her away from me and became a villain to her, she would bloom like a flower by overcoming the ordeal called Deculine. With me as her enemy, not only would she nullify all of her past wounds, she'd also soar brilliantly. That's what I'll do. I looked up at the distant sky. The villain's fate was perhaps the most appropriately named characteristic for Deculine. He had no choice but to love Julie, but to save her, he had to force her to hate him. If that's what it would take to save you. I placed my hand over my heart, finding this feeling strange. My heart, swallowed by a pain I had never felt before since becoming Deculine, pounded and ached. Was this itself just a result of programming or a character trait? Or did I truly come to love Julie without realizing it? I put down the book in my hand and opened a secret door leading to the herbal medicine room, a sweet-scented place filled with cool air, which I remodeled with my ductility magic. After applying all sorts of magical techniques to it, including the temperature control barrier, I had nearly all medicinal herbs in the world stored in it. But none of these could heal Julie. Knock, knock, Professor. It's time to train. I didn't even realize dawn had already come. Exiting the annex, Julie greeted me with a smile. Here. Yeah. I received the wooden sword she handed over to begin our morning swordsmanship training. If you stretch your sword in a straight line, there will always be an opening, so be sure to keep your sword curved. I swung my weapon according to her instructions. Tack, tack, dull sounds of our blades colliding echoed across the yard. Great, you're like a sponge. I think I'm already better than you. Nah, stay humble. The movements I made were refreshing, the steps pleasant. Sweating felt good right now. Clap, clap, clap. However, sounds of applause soon interrupted us. Stopping our swings midway, we turned around. It was still too early in the morning, but we already had 2 guests watching us. Ha ha ha. That's impressive, Deculine. Your physique doesn't fall behind even when compared to knights. Zeit laughed as he strode closer, Josephine following right behind him. I'm happy to see you and my sister becoming closer. Oh, right, I found a few wedding halls for you too. One of them was pretty awesome. I wanted to go with you, but... I looked at Josephine, thinking she might be of some help to me. She smiled brightly when our eyes met, but Julie immediately stood between us. "What's with that expression?" she pouted. ***, 10 days before the event, Efren, Alan, and Drent checked their suitcases in the assistant's lab. Towel. Toothbrush, clothes, emergency food. Have you got everything? Yes. Yes, the three above were invited to the Lochraylan Society as Professor de Killian's companions. Yaon Tilda Efren stayed up all night yesterday. What's so special about it anyway, Professor Allen? She didn't know what Lochraylan was, but rumors abounded that the attendance to it would be a huge boon to a wizard's career. Alan replied with a smile. "Oh, Lochraylan is a place where timelines are entangled." "Timelines?" Yeah, Tilda Allen took out a travel brochure from his robe's inside pocket. Lochraylan is a magical space that naturally occurred about 10 years ago when a meteorite crashed, causing enormous mana to explode. You already know the concept of magical space, right? Of course. I'm a Solda, after all. The gardens of the Imperial Palace are the perfect examples of it. The Imperial Garden allowed all 4 seasons to mysteriously coexist in it simultaneously. Exactly Tilda Lochraylan, combining the past 3 years and the future 10 years, also falls under that concept. No one's been able to answer how that was possible, though. Wow, that's amazing. It is, but be careful. Alan solemnly raised his index finger as if to warn. It is certainly magnificent, but it houses a lot of monsters, and many of them were even humans before. It's a Scarlet-level danger zone. That terrified Efren. There were only 3 danger levels, Black, Red, and Scarlet. Why would they hold the conference in such a place? The wizards found a way to use it recently. That's why it's only been probably 3 years since they started holding this event. Since Lochraylan was a relatively new magical space, its mystery was still unsolved. We'll be able to gather knowledge about the future through that place, so they decided to conduct the conference once a year. Oh, Efren and Drent's eyes widened, finally realizing its significance. That's right, Tilda, it has a lot of vile creatures. It is certainly dangerous, and we can't even take any Lochraylan native materials out of it since it would turn us into a monster, but it's worth the risk. Turn us into a monster? Alan paused for a moment to go through the travel brochures again. Hurriedly skimming through the pages, he smiled broadly upon finding what he was looking for. When you take out any items originally belonging to that magical space, you become infected with time-twisted magic, the deterrence of the world. No one knows what kind of fiend you'll become, though. I see. Everything makes sense now. That's great to hear. Now then, it's time to go. De Killian came out of his office at the same time as the trio exited the lab. Upon noticing him, Alan immediately ran up to him. "You look as good as always today, Professor Tilda." De Killian's outfit was actually more perfect than it had ever been, considering he had used Mita's hand to fully upgrade it. That served as proof that he was also nervous to some extent. Let's go. After all, through this main quest known as Lochraylan Society, the Archmages would finally appear. Rattle, 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 rattle. The VIP room of the gently swaying train. Lochraylan is a magical space created in the aftermath of a meteorite impact. It's located at the tip of the Riok Kingdom in the southeast of the continent. Initially owned by the Riok royal family, the Isle of Wizards' Wealth purchased the rights to it for 1 billion elnies on the 955 of the continental calendar, after which it established its Lochraylan branch, known as the Lochraylan Society. Drent, reading a book, hummed in interest. My other companions, Efren and Alan, slept soundly on the couch and concentrated on knitting, respectively. We were at peace. As for me, I couldn't help but think about the progress of the quest. I knew there were many other complicated issues to resolve, like Julie's wounds, but it would be best for me to focus on the main quest for now. Main quest. Bizarre Lochraylan Society store currency +1. Mana +50. I didn't know what kind of archmage would appear at the upcoming conference. I only learned about such an occurrence through the words of the company's employees and the script lines in the first place. Upon reaching the station, the train soon slowed down to a halt. As I retrieved my luggage, and Alan put her knitting kit in her robe pocket, Drent woke up Ephraim. "We're here." "Oh, yes, yes, I'm up." Upon disembarking together and stepping off the locomotive, the people of Lochralen greeted us. "Welcome, Professor de Culleen. May I suggest riding a horse to Lochralen? It's the most comfortable option." They then recommended 4 horses. Ephraim and Alan looked a bit anxious when I nodded, which I thought meant they didn't know how to ride them. "Let's share 2 horses, Drent?" Yes. Drent got on one first. Being the son of a noble family, he had the privilege of being trained in horseback riding. Alan sat hesitantly behind him, causing Ephraim's expression to turn dark. Then I climbed onto the next steed. "Oh, Professor Alan, if you change seats with me." Noticing her hesitation, I used psychokinesis to make her forcibly sit behind me. "Ah, let's go." "Yes, yeehaw." As our mounts sprinted through the dirt road, Ephraim wobbled behind me until she finally clung to my back. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, be quiet." "Ah." After about an hour, we arrived at our destination's entrance. "Oh, I feel sick. Professor Alan, are you okay?" "And no, I feel nauseous." That was the first time I've ever ridden a horse. Leaving behind Alan and Ephraim amid their groans, I looked around the area. Lochralen was more of a place than a space. Externally, it even looked like a colossal domed stadium with 2 robed wizards guarding its entryway. "Present your invitations, please." I did as instructed. "Verification complete. Feel free to leave your horses here." "Okay." We went through the passage beyond the doors they opened. I found Lochralen's interior quite unusual due to the outdoor aerial scenery, which included the sun and the sky visible above us. It was almost as if its ceiling was made of transparent glass. "It's surprisingly normal," Drent concluded after observing his surroundings. As he said, this place looked like it was meant for other people to live in. It even had an academy, hotels, kiosks, magic supply stores, houses, etc. Whoa. While walking blankly, he instinctively bowed to a passerby. "Oh, hello," and immediately fainted. Stopping from my tracks, I looked at him as Ephraim and Alan panicked and shook him, fear clearly visible in their expressions. "Drent, what happened? Drent!" "Something's wrong with him, Professor." They both looked at me at the same time, causing me to smirk. This situation was exactly as I heard in the system, which was funny. He talked to someone from the future or the past. What? To communicate with those who didn't actually belong to our timeline, one needs to have a tremendous amount of mana. Otherwise, this would happen. Even in the game, talking to Lochralen characters consumed quite huge amounts of mana. "Let's go. Carry him, Ephraim." "Huh, me? What do you want me to do it?" She lifted him and walked to Lochran, the conference hotel, with him on her back. Ugh, so heavy. While Ephraim groaned about him being such a tall guy, we arrived at the hotel's information desk, on top of which were several plates with numbers engraved on them. 950 Talon tilted her head. "What's this, Professor?" "It means 958 years of the continental calendar. Wear it like a nameplate." "Aha, tilde, does this mean I'll be able to talk to people with the same tag, Professor?" I shook my head. "There may be individuals from the past or the future pretending to be from our year." "Oh, you're right. There might be people like that." As I attached it to my chest, the hotel staff put a key on the counter without even looking at us, perhaps because she wasn't from this year. I took it with psychokinesis. "Room 801. Let's go." "Okay. He's too heavy." "Stop complaining. We're almost there." We used the elevator, hastening our arrival to our accommodation, a large room occupying half of the floor it was built on. Ephraim quickly put Drent down. "Phew. I thought my shoulders were about to give in." Announcement. The 958th conference will be held today at the Academy at 6 p.m. I repeat, I looked at my wristwatch. Ephraim did as well. It was 5 p.m. We have less than an hour left. Get ready. Aside from Drent, who was still unconscious, de Culleen's group headed for the Lochralen Society's main building, and upon their arrival, a wizard wearing a 958 nameplate on his chest came over to them immediately. "Please come with me, Professor de Culleen. You'll be provided with separate instructions before the beginning of the conference. Your company should wait here." He guided their leader away, leaving the two no choice but to watch his back disappear into the distance blankly. "What should we do, Professor Allen?" Well, I'll wait for him to return here. Alan seemed calm, but Ephraim most definitely wasn't. Looking around anxiously, she found a sign with the words Underground Archives engraved on it. Can I go to the archives room for a moment? Sure, Tilda, but don't talk to anyone or bring anything out. Of course, Tilda, she smiled. With no one blocking access to the place, she barged and rummaged straight into it. Whoa, so they weren't kidding. We have access to the future here. There were more papers than books on the bookshelves, but some of them came from the future, such as the years 959 and 960. Marveling over such a fact, she scanned through the documents. Ugh. However, after reading only a few lines, she already sensed her mana nearing depletion due to the immense feeling of lethargy that permeated within her, making her feel as if she was about to faint. Ephraim leaned against a bookshelf, using it as support to barely keep herself standing. Wow, what is this? It's impossible to acquire knowledge about the future with mundane amounts of mana. No, even archmages will have a hard time doing so. Surprised by the voice she heard, she turned around, finding a robed woman. However, she didn't have a nameplate on her. Pretending she didn't exist, she hurriedly put the papers back on the bookshelf. Tilda, are you trying to pretend you didn't see me, Tilda? The woman approached her swiftly by gathering mana on her feet, making her seem like she was hovering. Ephraim admired it, but she didn't express it. Instead, as if talking to herself, she asked, I wonder how many attendees are going to be in this event. They only invite 33 people every year, but they're all given the option to bring up to 3 companions. If so, then this event's max capacity is 132 people. They don't invite a lot of people to avoid time-related confusion. Of course, the 500 addicts who live exclusively in Lochralen aren't taken into the calculation. Is one out of those 132 with me right now? I don't know how to answer that, honestly. At that moment, Ephraim came to a realization. She's talking to me, but I'm still fine as far as I know. Doesn't that mean she's from year 958? She took a closer look at the woman. However, doing so almost made her heart stop out of sheer astonishment. The woman's eyes exposed under her robe, they were the same as hers. Ephraim? Her clear eyes curved into a thick and attractive arc. That's right, I'm Ephraim as well. Nice to meet you. The woman held out her hand. It stunned her. Why you? It's okay. I'm paying all the mana you need to talk to me. Speak freely. She blankly gave her allegedly older self a once-over, finding her looking very mature, beautiful, and even seemingly around 5 cm taller than she currently was. How many years away am I from you? If I tell you it'll cost me a few thousand words, would you prefer that? Oh, it takes a lot of mana to answer my question, doesn't it? That's right, Tilda. Adult Ephraim smiled broadly and took off her robe, her long, shiny hair fluttering. It caused her younger version's jaw to drop, thinking she had a beauty she didn't yet have. It's year 958, so I guess you came with Professor D'Quilleen. Yeah, why do you want to hit the professor? Her older version chuckled at her words, then gave an answer that was far beyond her expectations. Don't hate him too much. Why? Haha, I can't tell you more than that. More importantly, don't trust what I say too much. I'm not your definite future. Rather, what you'll become will most likely be far different from me. After all, the timeline is too messed up here in Lanovel. Ooh, she nodded thoughtlessly in reply. Ephraim. A familiar, low-pitched voice startled the two. They immediately located its source, although they already knew who it was, D'Quilleen. Looking alternately at them, he approached and first spoke to the older woman. Are you Ephraim too? She nodded. Yes, I am. You don't seem confused at all, which is to be expected of you, Professor. How do you know everything? Interesting. He answered. Ephraim looked at her grown-up version and D'Quilleen alternately. For reasons she couldn't fathom, adult Ephraim was smiling, but the corners of her eyes seemed to be wet with tears. What? Even the way she gazed up at D'Quilleen seemed so filled with love. Urgently, she exclaimed, Hey, why do you look like that when you look at him? Ahaha. When her words brought back the older woman to her mind, she shook her head. However, before she could reprimand her further, SHH. Adult Ephraim pressed a finger against her lips. What? The academy will be abolished today, so I don't know what's going to happen. Abolished? Why? Due to several problems. We'll talk about it later. Younger Iffy, won't you close your eyes for a moment? Adult Ephraim asked in a soft voice. Sure. When she closed her eyes voluntarily, Adult Ephraim gave Dequilline a bright smile. Professor Dequilline. He didn't avoid her gaze. Rather, a smirk appeared on his lips as if to say he found the situation absurd. Are you the real Ephraim? Of course. She looked completely different than her current self, making him think she had to be at least 10 years older or so. Long time no see, I've been waiting. Waiting? Yes. She approached Dequilline ever so cautiously and hugged him without hesitation, causing perplexity to rise within him. Adding more to his uncommon surprise, Adult Ephraim buried her face in his chest and even rubbed against it a few times. Sigh. After quite a while, she finally took a few steps back from Dequilline's arms, a melancholic smile on her lips. I wanted to hug you at least once. What? Startled, Ephraim hastily opened her eyes, but it was already too late by then. SHH. Instead, what dawned upon her was the beginning of a new predicament. Adult Ephraim pointed to the other side of the library. If we talk louder, we might all die, she whispered ever so faintly. Chapter 95. Ephraim looked in the direction Adult Ephraim was pointing but could see nothing in the dark hallway. At least, there seemed to be nothing. In a low voice, she asked. We might die. Why? We're under serious danger right now, due to which the entire Lochralan area was decided to be abolished in year 964. However, the execution of it has been delayed time and time again. Serious danger? Yes. Did you know that it was a meteorite that caused Lochralan? I just recently learned about that. The microbes that meteorite contained absorb mana, using it as a supplement to become powerful monsters that devour timelines. If they manage to escape this place and reach the outside world, they'll destroy the continent. Adult Ephraim's expression grew so serious even her younger version was surprised by the sudden change in her mood. Scientifically named as Kaidazite, they swallow the past, present, and future and merge them all into a single time frame. I call it interval repetition. Ephraim grew dizzy upon hearing such information. Adult Ephraim immediately supported her, puffing up her cheeks apologetically. I'm sorry. That knowledge is from the distant future, so it must have been a bit too heavy for you. I can shoulder this meeting's mana cost, but there's nothing I can do to support your mental power. Yeah, Ephraim fiddled with her temples and looked at Dequilline. He seemed to be fine. How is that professor, okay? That professor, Dequilline narrowed his eyes at her. Oh, I'm sorry. How are you okay? As I said, it's caused by his mental power. Simply put, an individual with a mental power of 50 will consume 50% less mana when listening to knowledge about the future. Likewise, those with a mental power of 10 will reduce their mana consumption by 10%. In that regard, Professor Dequilline's mental power is probably 99. It isn't 99, that aside, let's head outside. As you said, it's dangerous here. Adult Ephraim shook her head. No, I have to stay here and stop them. Alone? Yes, you are so strong. Ephraim shrugged, blatantly admiring her older self. So that's what I'll become. My future is so awesome. Seemingly reading her thoughts, Adult Ephraim smiled, then looked at Dequilline, whom she found staring at the other side of the hallway. Can you see it, Professor? She asked. Dequilline nodded slightly. His vision allowed him to see it clearly. The monster of time called Kaidazite wasn't far from Ephraim, but it seemed hesitant about charging towards her, although it was threatening enough as it was, Ephraim. Yes, let's go, it's conference time. I want to stay a bit more. No, you should go. Adult Ephraim put her hand on her younger version's shoulder. It's okay, we can meet again tomorrow. The conference will last 3 nights and 4 days anyway, won't it? Can we speak out loud now? Yeah. It came here to eat 2 people, but it must have decided against it since I'm here now. It's scared of me. Whoa, really? Of course, Tilda, I'm too awesome. Oh, before you leave, I have a request for you too. They looked at her with curiosity. Lochralan Society. The Archmages request 1 advanced attribute catalog. Dequilline's eyes widened not because of the rare reward, but because of the quest's name. Nevertheless, he swiftly regained his composure and looked at Adult Ephraim with an unconcerned expression. What request? Her younger self asked quickly. sounding so impressed with her that she was almost out of her mind. There are still meteorites deeper than this archives room and the Kaidazite's main body to take care of. However, the door that leads to it is blocked by a gap in time. Perhaps the host it had eaten holds the key to it. Host? Yes, it's looking for a way out of Lockralen. I've kept that fiend locked in here so far, but it looks like it finally found a host. Since I only have one body, I only guard the most dangerous place. Adult Ephraim looked at her other self. Oh, I guess I have two bodies now, Tilda? Ephraim was startled. What do you mean? That's creepy. Haha, anyway, will you please grant me this request, dearest Professor? De Killeen looked at his wristwatch. 6 p.m. All right. He nodded. Advanced Attribute Catalog. He had to acquire the quest's reward no matter what it would take. Asterisk De Killeen. So you've been invited as well. As soon as we came out of the archive room, Rose Rio greeted me. We're meeting quite often these days, huh? Credo and Thuracrank Wizard served as her companion. They were both from year 958. Nice to see you, Prince Credo. Politely greeting him, he smiled and nodded. Haha, it's nice to see you too, Professor De Killeen. I must say, the Eucline revision proved really helpful. Hey, am I invisible? Rose Rio narrowed her eyes. Oh, Professor De Killeen. It's me, Delpin. Professor, it's me, Relin. There were quite a few other people who knew me. Relin from year 958, Delpin from 960, whom I still haven't met, Esicil from 958, one of the Birch Conference's participants. The conference will start soon. Please proceed to the conference area on the second floor. That announcement mobilized everyone still outside the exact venue. Let's go. Okay. I walked with Credo, followed by Alan, Rose Rio, Ephraim, Relin, and so on. Everyone is here. As instructed, we headed to the conference hall, where a blond, middle-aged man in a suit greeted us. Nice to meet you all. I am the president of the Lockralen Society, Lockralen. That's not my real name, but I fell in love with this place so bad I decided to change my name to it. As you might have already guessed by that, I'm also an addict. However, I am full of social skills. As Lockralen spoke lively, I looked around, finding several conference rooms in the hallway of the lobby. This place is filled with courses, each discussing a different subject. Now then, get your ticket. He distributed tickets to the 300 people who attended this gathering, which was far below its maximum number of participants. It was understandable, though, since wizards rarely brought companions with them due to their nature. What I just gave you is your key to the conference rooms. Anyone can give a lecture, but only 3 can be attended per individual. Keep in mind that some of them are from the future and some are from the past. Ha ha ha. A list of all available classes was then provided. There was a wide variety of them. Elements of Rufagil from 958, Galle's Continental Mine Exploration from 960, Mystic Herbology of Darren from 963. I have a question. Ephraim boldly raised her hand. About to respond enthusiastically, Lockralen's expression darkened when he saw her. Some people pass out even just listening to a single word of those from the future, so how are we supposed to listen to these lectures? Whose companion are you? He asked sternly in reply, his eyes narrowing down on her. When Ephraim looked up at my face, the host's expression brightened up almost immediately. Oh, Tilda, ha 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 ha, you're with Professor De Killeen. I knew it. Your curiosity is brilliant after all, Tilda. Is that so? Of course. Anyway, this building eases up the burden on the attendees to a certain extent, and the lecturers won't be speaking directly to their audience. Simply put, you'd only be eavesdropping on their conversation with themselves. Naturally, it would still consume your mana and mental power, but through those precautionary measures, each attendee should be able to listen to at least one class. Aha! Moreover, fainting from just one word from them should be impossible. The only exception to it would be if the recipient were exhausted. Ephraim seemed convinced, but she asked another question. What if we steal knowledge about the future? Ha ha ha, Tilda? Lockralen ruffled his hair and smirked in an unauthentic manner. You most likely won't be able to remember all the memories you've gained here once you leave this magical space's premises. Instead, They'd settle on the other side of your unconscious like an afterimage. Then why would we attend them? Think of it as a ripple. Even if you store your memories in your subconscious mind, at some point, they'll flood into the surface like a water stream, filling you up with ideas and inspiration. Those ripples are never exactly the same as their actual source, but they would lead you to another development. Is my explanation clear enough? As Ephraim nodded, he came up to her and stroked her hair, which terrified her. Now then, let's begin the conference. Feel free to choose whichever lecture you want to listen to. Everyone, Professor de Culleen. I looked at him in silence. May I ask you for a lecture tomorrow by any chance? Lockraylan lecture. A suspicious future, Mana plus 15. Okay, I agreed. Thank you. Now everyone, please move. There isn't much time. Clap, clap, clap. People moved the moment he applauded. The conference proceedings were simple. All they had to do was pick the course they wanted and listen to the speaker. Ephraim, Alan, feel free to pick whichever class you want. Yep. Ephraim quickly ran to named Wizard Weiston's lecture about the 4 series. I'm going to take the same lecture as you, Professor Tilda. Among the many topics, I focused only on those related to the field of medicine. Brahan's lectures on medicine, Mollen's newly discovered herbs in 963, and intersection of medicine and magic. Alan just followed me around and dozed off in each of them for about 5 hours. Pharmaceutical knowledge level. Advanced, 77%. Perhaps it was because I was gaining information from the future, but my pharmaceutical knowledge soared by 40%. I didn't know if I would be able to keep it once I had left Lockraylan, though. There weren't many ways to test this prepared elixir. Monologued Kazekon, the speaker of intersection of medicine and magic, the third and final lecture I attended. Delivering it in such a way definitely consumed their audience's mana less. Every experimental method was deemed impossible, including clinical trials. It couldn't be fed to humans, and it raised the question of whether making animals eat it would be no different from doing it to humans. A scream filled the conference room and the entire lobby, causing the lecturer to stop talking and Alan, dozing off, to wake up in surprise. Professor, what's going on? Let's go. Okay, I exited the room, finding its source being the woman with a hand on her cheek in the second-floor lobby. What's going on? As the wizards, having gathered together, blocked their ears, Lockraylan appeared hurriedly, frowning upon the screams of the female wizard standing in the hallway. Hey, you! So noisy. Okay, stop it. You're bothering everyone. Unable to stop her from a distance, he sighed, knowing full well he had no choice left but to approach her. Tell me what you saw. Why, The woman didn't even bother looking at or listening to him. Look, just tell me. I grabbed his arm the moment he stretched his hand to shake her back into reality. Looking at me, he tilted his head. Professor, don't touch her. What? But why? Standing still, I looked at the female. She didn't stop or even move a single step, even after so much time had passed. With the lectures disrupted and stopped, the onlooking wizards began to feel a certain fear rise within them. Chapter 96. However, she didn't stop or even move a single step, even after so much time had passed. With the lectures disrupted and stopped, the onlooking wizards began to feel a certain fear rise within them. What's wrong with her? Rose Rio rubbed her arms, seemingly getting chills. She lost her soul. I checked her face under her robe's hood. Frightened expression, petrified eyes, deafening screams, pupil movements, facial wrinkles. Every part of her cycled through the same routine and interval endlessly. She had a nameplate from 963, a year before the abolition of Lockraylan. Rose Rio, can you stop this noise? Gosh, of course I can. Veiling the place with silence, she effectively muted the woman. Her horrific expression and frostbitten posture remained, however. Did anyone bring a mana stone? I need one to keep the spell going. Creto handed her a crystal ball from his inner pocket. Is this enough? Oh, yes. Utilizing it as a medium for her magic, she added a few more spells as a precaution. I'm done here. So why did you say we shouldn't touch her to Killeen? You'll likely suffer the same fate if you do. Everyone's shock was clearly revealed on their faces. Lockraylan coughed and shouted to the wizards in the hall. Sorry, everyone. Today's conference will be temporarily cancelled due to an unfortunate incident. Please go back to the hotel. No. I cut him off. I took out the wood steel and sent it down to the first-floor exit. At the same time, I ordered it to prevent anyone from going outside. What do you mean? Lockraylan's forehead wrinkled. Walking calmly, I stood in front of them. No one is allowed to leave this building. Professor de Killeen. Even though it's you, I'm the president of the Lockraylan Society, so... There is a host among us. A host? I looked at the attendees gathered before me. I demand everyone to take off their robes and reveal their faces. The reaction was pretty intense. Relin and the people below me took off their robe hoods hastily, but the heads of other prestigious families and high-ranking wizards expressed their anger for being suspected. Professor, you're not making any sense. Don't you know who I am, de Killeen? I'm Galen. Galen. Even if there is a host among us, it's not me. I couldn't care less about what happened. Each and every word they uttered consumed a lot of mana, so I decided to finish what I needed to say first. If you don't want to be executed for being suspected as a host, then follow my command. Ah. Not long after, a similar scream rang out on the first floor, but there was no need for us to go all the way down. Oh my, Rose Rio gasped, clearly taken aback. The victim, this time, climbed the stairs between the first and second floors indefinitely. He would take one step up, scream, one step down, then scream again. This looks serious. His nameplate stated 963, the same as the previous victim. Ugh, that's creepy. De Killeen, how did they turn out like that? Rose Rio asked anxiously. I don't know. Albeit a little delayed, I noticed wizards starting to descend the stairs. Lockraylan, Allen, Eferen, Creto, Delpin, Relin, Viston, Galen. First things first. Shut the entrance and let no one out, Rose Rio. No, Professor, if we all end up like that. Hey. She lightly restrained Lockraylan's resistance, and upon reaching the first floor, blocked all the doors leading to the exit using ductility magic. Asterisk. Lockraylan, 12 hours in. Arriving at the cafeteria in the corner of the first floor, Eferen sighed in relief. Fortunately, she found enough ingredients to ensure starving wouldn't be a problem for them. Are you hungry, Professor? No, Tilda, I can endure it, Tilda. Allen, deciding to accompany her, denied it. Allen's stomach kept growling. You're lying. Let me make you something. Can you cook? Of course. Eferen prepared a dish using magic. She made ingredients soar into the air, let them be cut on their own, roasted them using magical flames, and... Give me a plate, please. Whoa. Admiring her work, Allen did as she requested. After completing the delicacy in 30 minutes, they went to the round table conference room on the third floor, where select wizards, including de Killeen and Rose Rio, held a meeting. Here, I brought something to eat. Hey, can't you see we're in the middle of something here? Relin glared at her eyes and waved her off, but Rose Rio swiped his hand away. I'm starving, thank you. Ah, is that so? Thank you, leave it and go. All right. As Allen served each of them a plate, Eferen sneakily stood near the round table to eavesdrop on their discussion. That can only happen to people from the future, right? Rose Rio asked while eating. It'll be at its most powerful in 10 years. It's most likely targeting the people that exist near that time first. De Killeen replied while reading a book. She glanced at its cover. Is there something in that book? Wait. Isn't that from 963? How can you rate it so easily? I've never found it difficult to do so in the first place. Although his total mana capacity was clearly at the bottom among the people in Lockraylan, de Killeen's unique mental power reduced his mana consumption to near, if not absolute, 0%. That aside, Professor, who was in the underground archives? Relin asked, causing Eferen to flinch. Not even bothering to answer him, he turned his attention to Rose Rio. Which floor is the basement in? Well, I'm not sure, but I heard it's pretty deep. Why did they make an archive room in there, then? Deucalion muttered, still scouring through the pages of the book in his hand. Upon taking a closer look, she finally discovered its title, 963 Lockraylan Building Inspection. Rose Rio shrugged. How would I know that? Rose Rio. Raising his gaze, he looked at her as she replied indifferently. What? How old are you? Why do you ask that now? I have no choice but to ask since you keep talking without honorifics. But I'm higher in rank. She crossed her arms and smirked, but when Deucalion closed the book, she flinched. Giving her a cold, deathly stare, he whispered, Rose Rio. What, Rose Rio? What? I will ask you one last time. As his gaze pierced through her, the pressure he emitted seemed to suffocate the entire room. Gosh, all right. I'll use half honorifics then. Does that sound fair to you? He nodded in agreement. Half honorifics were acceptable since, despite being older than her, Rose Rio had a higher rank. Bang! The door to the conference room swung open. Professor Deucalion, Wizard Rose Rio, why are the two of you only chatting and eating here? Delpin, a named wizard, raged, consuming his mana in the process. 960 was engraved in his nameplate. There have been 40 more victims already. Don't you know how many of us are here, including those from the past and the future? What madness possessed you for you to order everyone to stay here while the monster's host is in this building? You've done nothing but turn us into sitting ducks. We're leaving. You have no power over us anyway. Delpin turned around to walk away, taking quite a few people with him. Delpin from 960. He stopped at Deucalion's words. I am Deucalion from 958. The immense weight and pressure his voice carried crashed down on everyone's shoulders, including the instigator himself. I am the head of the Eucline family, the head professor of the Imperial University, the Emperor's guard and magic educator. The more titles he uttered, the heavier his name became. Delpin from 960. Swallowing hard, he looked back at Deucalion. Tell me your opinion. He still had his legs crossed. He didn't even stand up or display the slightest hint of wrath. Instead, he just asked a question, almost in the same way he would send his regards. Do you not want me to let you exist in your year? That warning was for everyone, not just him. If so, then perhaps I should send you to Rohalak. Those standing by his side trembled upon hearing his words that threatened their future existence. I'm sorry. I panicked for a moment there, which must have caused me to lose myself. Please do forgive me, Professor Deucalion. He raised the white flag by bowing. The Society's president, Lockraylan, descended to the underground archives. God damn it. How the hell could this even happen? This shouldn't be possible. There's no way I'd be completely unaware of such an event. Muttering incomprehensibly, he ran along its perimeter, which offered a safe path for him to use, until he reached one of its corners. Pant, pant. After scanning his surroundings, he pressed his hand against the wall, causing a secret door to slowly open upon recognizing his fingerprints. Phew. Phew. He calmed his rough breathing only after entering his hidden 30M2 study room. Phew. Wiping his sweat, he walked over and sat down on a chair. He then looked at his journal, a record of his stay in this magical space. March 8th, Lockraylan is where I will be forever. So, he used this hidden area to store his diary, but since Lockraylan itself was a place where the timelines had been entangled, his future self sometimes wrote entries in it, preventing him from being unaware of major events such as the one currently happening. I would have used the word stunned. Deucalion also. With cold sweat dripping from his forehead, he frantically rummaged through it. He didn't even have time to stop to tend to his paper cuts now. Thanks to his desperate effort, however, he discovered a new entry he had never seen before. September 5th. The attack Deucalion mentioned is the fucking witch's work. That, he read the messy and disorganized handwriting his future self delivered to the present, the contents of which astonished him upon fully deciphering it. Unbelievable. How? Hurry up and tell Deucalion. He closed his diary and went straight above ground. Ignoring his profuse perspiration, he climbed the stairs and reached the lobby as fast as he could. Professor Deucalion, Professor Deucalion. Only the information desk employees stayed on the first floor, blocked by Rose Rio's magic. However, the madman was sleeping even amid this tumultuous time. Lockraylan ran to him. "Hey, now's not the time to sleep." "Ah, no, yes." Waking up in shock, he looked at Lockraylan. "Where's Professor de Culleen?" "Oh, he's probably in the round table conference room on the third floor right now. At least he was 3 hours ago." "Third floor?" Lockraylan asked, bewildered by how many more flights of stairs he had to climb. "Ah, no," the staff answered. "No, yes." "Then where?" "Oh, he's probably in the round table conference room on the third floor right now. At least he was 3 hours ago." "What?" At that moment, a shiver rose on Lockraylan's back. The staff continued to speak. "Ah, no, yes. Oh, he's probably in the round table conference room on the third floor right now. At least he was 3 hours ago." Gulp, swallowing hard, Lockraylan slowly took a step backward. At the same time, he came to a realization. His employee entered that soulless state right in front of his eyes. If so, then the host was, at least he was until 3 hours, near. Lockraylan looked around but soon staggered due to his profusely trembling legs. "Ah, no, yes. Oh, he's probably in the round table conference room on the third floor right now." The desk staff repeated the same lines ceaselessly. "Damn. The third floor right now. At least he was 3 hours ago." Lockraylan hurriedly turned around and ran, swiftly opening the door to the hallway and climbing up the stairs. "Ah, no, yes. Oh, he's probably in the round table conference room on the third floor right now. At least he was 3 hours ago." He made his way to the third floor. "Ugh, Professor de Culleen?" However, when he opened the door to the conference room, a scene flashed through Lockraylan's mind. Hurry up and tell de Culleen. His future self's last entry came to mind. He read it without any doubt then, but he now realized that handwriting wasn't his. Ah. He looked at the person blocking his path. It was probably closer to flashes before his eyes. "Hello, Lockraylan." To her, who had fully predicted his behavior, he responded as he gasped for breath. "You, how did you know?" From that point on, all that was left for him was repetition. "Ugh, Professor de Culleen." He went back to the past and opened the door on the third floor. Facing her again, he mumbled once more with an astonished expression. "You, how did you know?" Upon finishing those words, his time rewound. He went back to the past and opened the door on the third floor. "Ugh, Professor de Culleen." The person Lockraylan saw had long since left, but his expression, memories, and time remained unchanging. "You, how did you know?" Lockraylan was stunned. Chapter 97. An hour ago, amid a dark dawn, the academic building grew very quiet thanks to Rose Rio's silence. Amid it, Efren glanced at Alan, who accompanied her on the second floor's conference room. "Assistant Professor, are you sleeping?" Alan, covered in a blanket, repeated a faint breathing sound. Fortunately, it was irregular, which evidenced that they hadn't fallen victim to the monster yet. Efren picked up the thick backpack and cautiously stuffed it with food. Right now, her thoughts about her future self dominated over her fear of an attack. She knew adult Efren would be hungry like her. Oh. She put on high heels, which she thought would make the Kaidazite confuse her for her older version. Only then did she finally sneak out. However, in the middle of the hallway, she made eye contact with Professor Relin, who claimed to be a vigilante to show off in front of de Culleen. This. His presence startled her, but she inevitably noticed he repeated a certain word endlessly with a shocked expression. "This." Efren looked up at him and placed a hand on her chest. Professor Relin. She suffered a lot from him and talked behind his back a lot, but when she saw him in such a pitiful state, she felt bad for him. After a brief bow, she descended the stairs, finding the employee at the information desk on the first floor resting his head on his desk. "I guess he's sleeping." Utilizing that opportunity, she went straight down to the underground archives. Efren. Efren. As soon as she reached the basement, she whispered her own name repeatedly, finding the act a little bit funny. "Efren. Where are you, Efren?" When her older version didn't show up, she hid behind a bookshelf first to recollect her thoughts. At that time? No way. Startled, she turned around, finding the society's president, Lockraylan, running away with desperation in his expression. What's wrong with him? Eferen took out her lunch box instinctively. As she ate a bite, the words of her future self repeated in her mind. She told me not to hate him. That was weird. Jindalf, her older version, what was wrong with her? Eferen. Surprised by the voice coming from above, she looked up, finding adult Eferen looking down at her from atop the tall bookshelf. Why you scared me? Hoo-hoo, thanks to you I could do it. Do what? I caught the host. Really? Her eyes, nostrils, and mouth widened as her future self smiled at her and landed gently next to her. Of course. I couldn't have done it without you, though. Because of me, how so? Your shoes. We're essentially the same person, so when you became as tall as I was and wore a robe to conceal how you did it, the Kaidazite naturally became confused. While it was focused on you, I went out and caught it. Oh, I see. Ha ha, in fact, that's what I had in mind, too. She proudly showed off her heels, causing her older self to chuckle. Right, it's as expected of me, we're smart. It was a nice compliment to hear. Shrugging, Eferen took her backpack off her shoulders. Wait, I brought you something. Unzipping it, she held out another lunch box. Adult Eferen's eyes widened. Oh, Tilda, unfortunately, I couldn't find any Rohawk. Rohawk, I almost forgot. She licked her lips. Grinning, the younger of the two asked, Are there Rohawks in the future too? Of course. It's actually become famous for its taste. Personally, I always found it more delicious whenever I ate with the professor. Eferen's expression hardened. With Professor Dekilleen? Yeah, it's going to take a very long time to make him eat together with us since he pathologically hates unclean food. That's true. She couldn't bring herself to imagine Dekilleen holding a Rohawk in his hands. She shook her head, preventing her from getting more distracted. She had more important matters to discuss with her. But aren't the professor and you, no, me, us, enemies? Can you at least give me a hint about what happened? She asked cautiously. Adult Eferen wallowed in silence for a moment, her expression seemingly trying to choose the right words carefully and firmly. Then she laughed bitterly. Yeah, you're right, he's an enemy. I am. But he doesn't exist in my world anymore, so don't hate him too much. I honestly would appreciate it if you could make him stay in your world for as long as possible. Her words stabbed her in the back like an awl and made her feel dizzy. Adult Eferen supported her before she could fall. I can't provide you with more detailed explanations. You're already dizzy, right? I feel sleepy for some reason. Then you should sleep. Thank you for this lunch box. Ah, sure. Eferen rubbed her hazy eyes. Sleep well. When you wake up, it'll all be over. Okay, wait. What's going to be over? Adult Eferen only laughed bitterly. No answer came even after she fell into a comfortable slumber. *** in 953. According to those who witnessed the meteorite's fall, they saw 2 flashes of light struck the ground. The area was then named after its scientific name, Lochraelen. The Isle of Wizards' Wealth purchased the rights to Lochraelen for 1 billion elnies, which sparked a debate in the Academy. That land wasn't in the sky but on the ground, and if an accident occurs during the study on the floating island. In particular, the imperial media, the journal, criticized it as the dark desire of the magical world. Its society's president, Jessen, later changed his name to Lochraelen. Dekilleen spent all day conducting investigations. The wizards, including Rose, Rio, and Creto, had already gone to bed, but he found no need to sleep or rest. With tension and concentration stacking on top of his Iron Man trait, he dedicated himself to digging into the entirety of Lochraelen. Hey. He looked at the addict, who was quietly standing in the corner of the discussion room on the 3rd floor. He pointed to himself. Me. Yes, you. I heard there were 500 addicts in Lochraelen. That's right. Where are they all? On conference days, everyone stays inside. Everyone? Of course. We are Lochraelen addicts. Regardless of where we're working, be it at a hotel, canteen, or as an employee, we all come here during conference days. Dekilleen nodded silently. Then there will be no one outside this academy building right now. Except for Drent, who passed out in the hotel. Most likely. The addict's reply caused a certain thought to flash through Dekilleen's mind, like a spark that lasted only for a fleeting moment. It wasn't conclusive, but enough to serve as a hint. Professor Dekilleen. The door swung open, and an addict came in. The president was also attacked. Though his voice was filled with urgency and fear, D'Killion's composure remained unfazed. He straightened his collar sleeves and tie, then got up. "Let's go." "Oh, okay." There was no need to walk long. He found Lockraylan stunned on the stairs of the 3rd floor. "Ugh, Professor D'Killion." "You, how did you know?" D'Killion watched the society president call out to him. "You, how did you know?" "Ugh, Professor D'Killion." "You, how did you know?" "Ugh, Professor D'Killion." "You, how did you know?" Lockraylan's cycle was pretty bizarre. Since when has he been like this? "We found him this morning." "D'Killion, this is trouble. K. Credo was attacked too," Rose Rio yelled, approaching him from behind. He gave her a quick glance, then refocused his attention on Lockraylan. This is strange. He felt as if he was missing something. The stun was clearly contagious. However, if it were truly all around him by now, was it because it didn't mean death? But if that state was eternal, what difference would it be from death? D'Killion watched Lockraylan scream and run for a few moments. "Ugh, Professor D'Killion." Not long after, he noticed a necklace around his collarbone. However, the chain was the only thing left of it. Someone probably took the pendant itself. At that moment, a system announcement flashed in front of D'Killion's retina, stating quest complete. His eyes widened in amazement. The article he just read today also coursed through his mind like static electricity. According to those who witnessed the meteorite's fall, they saw 2 flashes of light struck the ground. 2 flashes of light. It wasn't just one meteorite that hit Lockraylan, Rose Rio. And there isn't only one Kaidazite either. "What? What are you talking about? Follow me." Even at that moment of realization, D'Killion remained extremely calm. He just descended to the 1st floor without saying anything. Like the high-ranking wizard that she was, Rose Rio quickly regained her composure and followed him. "We must leave. We can't blindly trust Professor D'Killion forever. We should trust in our own intelligence, prepare magic. Destruction magic. We must leave. We can't trust only Professor D'Killion forever. We should put more faith, trust in our own intelligence. Prepare magic. Destruction magic." The exit on the 1st floor was a mess. Dozens of wizards, locked in perpetual repetition, ceaselessly chanted magic incantations. "We'll be like them soon." Rose Rio murmured cynically. "Professor," Alan came down, panting from the 2nd floor stairs. "This is trouble. Epheren is gone." "What? Isn't Epheren your disciple, D'Killion?" Rose Rio glanced at him, but he didn't even show the slightest concern or interest. Instead, he just went straight to the underground archives. "Professor, I'm going with you." "Ouch." Alan tripped mid-run, but he still showed neither sympathy nor empathy. However, Rose Rio, a few steps behind, called out to him. "D'Killion, look behind you." Only then did he turn around. "Professor, I'm going with you." "Ouch." Alan reached out to him, but failing to grab onto him, fell to the floor instead. "Professor?" Alan then went back in time. "I'm going with you." "Ouch." Alan, too, was now stuck in an eternal cycle. Nevertheless, D'Killion remained undaunted. Rather, he spoke as if it was only natural that it happened. "So, what? You, just follow me." D'Killion went down the stairs without hesitation, but he didn't stop at the underground archives. Instead, he made his way through the middle of the hallway. "Your disciples over there." She pointed to the side of the bookshelf, where Epheren seemed to have been stunned while in her sleep. "Right. What's with your reaction? You're so cold-blooded." His composure amid a sea of trouble shocked her. There wasn't even a hint of doubt within his every move. "Is it here?" Soon enough, they reached the stairs leading to the lower basement. D'Killion glanced at her. "Rose Rio." "No, don't call me by my name alone from now on. Add etheric before it. Repeat after me. Etheric wizard Rose Rio." Now that she had seen his true colors, she intended to cut ties with him from now on. Much to her surprise, though, he bluntly did as she instructed. "Etheric wizard Rose Rio." "You really did it." "Stand over there." Rose Rio frowned. "Why? There's a Kaidazite behind you." "What, then?" "You should just be stunned." "Why, you crazy bastard." Rose Rio gathered mana into her hand, but that was where her resistance ended. "Why, you crazy bastard? Why, you crazy bastard? Why, you crazy bastard?" After confirming she was now affected by the monster's power as well, he went down the stairs. Thump, thump. Feeling like he could be a bit at ease now, D'Killion dusted his entire physique off. including the buttons on his sleeves, collar, and tie, as he descended an endless spiral staircase. She'll most likely be waiting for me down there. Clack! The ground his shoes stepped on was now as hard as stones, unlike the stairs he scaled. Having reached Lochraylan's last basement, D'Culline looked at the other end of it, where a huge gate was blocked by a time gap, just as adult Efferin said, but it was already open. Remaining undaunted, he walked in with his upright posture. Among the damp underground filled with cold gusts, he found the 2 meteorite fragments that hit the continent's surface in the past and the monster of time they brought with them. More importantly, he found the future Archmage standing firm in the middle of it all. So this is where you were. Indeed. Nice to meet you, Professor, Efferin Luna replied. *** quest complete. The Archmage's Request 1 Advanced Attribute Catalog. Lochraylan was the host we were looking for. His name itself hinted he was connected to the meteorite, after all. The problem was that there wasn't only one monster. There were 2 Kaidazites, I said, facing Efferin. Yes, one went to Lochraylan and the other came to me. His was a runaway, which made me struggle a bit, but in the end, it was thanks to him that I succeeded. Shrugging, Efferin smiled. You don't know how many times I went back and forth between the future and the past, all for the sake of finding the most decisive moment to strike. I thought I knew what Lochraylan abolition meant now, and what this brazen woman was trying to do, thump. When I took a step towards her, she stiffened and shook her head. Don't come any closer. I ignored her words, but after a while a transparent curtain blocked my way. Carbon shield. It's magic invented by you and honed by me. No one's capable of penetrating through it. She divided the space by freely handling carbon magic. Stopping as close as I could be to her, I then stared right into her eyes. What do you plan to do now? Since I've captured Kaidazite and Lochraylan, I will release them. Those bastards will spread all over this place, consuming their life force, that is time. It is the most peaceful solution available. Is that why you paralyzed everyone? Efferin smiled bitterly. Yes, that's right. The reason the villains was that the eternal cycle she caused was seen as salvation, not death. So this is the plan you've come up with to dispose of Lochraylan. Due to its nature, the past and the future always coexisted in this space, making it impossible to get all personnel outside. I, Archmage Efferin, was in charge of that. This place wasn't meant to be entered by humans, much less hold conferences. In that sense, this catastrophe was caused by nothing but the magical world's greed and desires. However, if you release them, time will overflow throughout Lochraylan, right? Kaidazite was a monster that devoured time. One could easily predict the result of letting it go. If what was intertwined were to be unraveled like a compressed skein being untwined, it would expand, allowing it to spread all over the place. The same could be applied to time. That's right. Lochraylan's space will be filled with time. This process could take hundreds of years. Efferin shook her head. After careful calculations, I concluded it would take 385 years, but that much time will only pass in this realm. In the outside world, only 10 seconds would pass. Do you mean you're going to bear that time alone? Yes. Her answer was immediate. Don't worry. No matter how many eons pass in here, I'd never age. The Kaidazite is a monster made up of only time, after all. If the Kaidazite were to escape from Lochraylan, the world would be destroyed, turning the entire continent into victims of its malevolence. However, if she unraveled it here, the time in this space alone would stretch to hundreds of years. That would limit the victims to only those within Lochraylan. Not wanting to sacrifice anyone, Efferin created her own solution. Only those who have been stunned in the past can escape those centuries. She nodded weakly. Yes, if I can endure the 385 years, they'll all be safe. For them, it would only feel like a fleeting moment. They won't even realize they've been stunned. They wouldn't even realize it. That was the key. She chose to put everyone in Lochraylan under such an effect except herself. In doing so, they wouldn't even be aware of the 385 years they'd be going through. For that to happen, everyone had to be in this conference hall. Stun is a skill that takes a lot of time and energy, so it needs to be located close to Kaidazite's meteorite. I intentionally used you since I know you well, Tilda. She winked, which wasn't really like her. I stared at her, dumbfounded. What about Drent? Hoo-hoo. I've already taken care of him. He's a very mentally weak man. With a nod, I gathered mana in my hand and used it to scratch her carbon shield. Ephraim just laughed. I already told you it won't work. Magic invented by you and developed by me. Sway, her eyes widened upon witnessing it tremble. You're too cheeky. I invented it, Ephraim. That makes understanding it a lot easier and faster. Wuong, I was filled with confidence until Ephraim poured out even more mana, causing it to become 10 times stronger than before. My rank is eternal, Professor. There was no way out of this. Don't take the weight of hundreds of years lightly. You alone will spend much longer than a human lifetime in a place where there is no one to accompany you. Ephraim didn't answer. Not even you would be able to prevent your mental power from collapsing. Your psyche will crumble and be swept away like sandcastle amid a tornado. I know. Ephraim inflated her cheeks, but who could survive that long easily? He's right in front of you. I looked at her. Ephraim's playful expression gradually turned blank. What? I'll do it for you, Ephraim. Her lips quivered. 385 years. I didn't know what would happen to me during those long years, but I wasn't afraid at all. That enormous amount of time wouldn't even be able to scratch my far more colossal ego. Therefore, I was more suitable for this task than her. All I had to do was train psychokinesis by myself. I need time to think and grow anyway. You'll think for 300 years. As I nodded, a small smile appeared on her lips. I can't believe this happened to me. A small drop of tear formed on the corner of her eye. Wiping it with the sleeve of her robe, the tip of her red nose then rose with a sniff. I smirked. Are you really crying just because of such a simple task? No, this is far more than just a simple task to me. Ephraim dismantled the shield that made me understand what she wanted to say. Let's take turns. Yes, Professor. Ephraim approached me and, just like last time, gave me a surprise hug again. The most up-to-date novels are published on Lightno Velpub. I was going to say something to her, but my mouth didn't move. Thank you. But it's fine. I shouldn't have allowed her to get anywhere near me. Goodbye, Professor. Chapter 98. Goodbye, my Professor. The trembling voice of a child could be heard from a distant future. That mysterious tone lingered in my ear like an echo, and before dispersing, it reverberated through me until it filled me fully. I blinked. The world was turned upside down in that instant. There was no one in the basement where she had been. The wind gently brushed past me, the cold air caressing my skin. There was only silence to be found there. In this space where nothing changed, my time continued uninterrupted. However, 385 years must have passed between that time and my own. You're cheeky. Anger and contempt flashed inside me. It was an unavoidable part of Deculine's personality. Flutter. Suddenly, a piece of paper caught my eye, caught under my foot. I lifted it with psychokinesis. To Professor Deculine, hello, this is Ephraim. By now, the professor I know must be furious. Wouldn't you have already muttered something along the lines of "you're cheeky"? Without realizing it, I looked around. There was no one to be found, however. I reread that sentence, noting her cursive handwriting. I'm sorry, Professor, but this is up to me. And this is just time. The mana and the air are stagnant here, making training impossible. It's a meaningless time where the only thing you can do is to think. It's a time that repeats, sweeping back and forth like waves on a beach. Hoo-hoo. Well, I had a lot of things I wanted to say to you. What happened in the future and what the future was like. However, it proved difficult to convey the knowledge of the future to the present. In particular, your future was impossible to see, even if I poured all my magic into it. So, with just one line of incomplete information, just a single word to convey the facts. What I want to say to you is, that was the end of the letter. I looked at the back side of the page, but it was blank. Whatever happened, her writing had suddenly stopped. Professor, the door swung open and a slightly younger voice greeted me. I slid the note into my pocket before looking back. Was it successful? Lockralen's disposal? Ephraim. She clenched her fists while speaking urgently. I nodded. Oh, However, the complete disposal is a matter of the future. The Kaidazite has been dismantled, but this Lochraylan timeline will be maintained for now. Lochraylan's disposal was still a matter of the future. Lochraylan itself would remain until the day Epheren became an archmage. Then, what about me? I looked at her and thought of the future Epheren, imagining her enduring those 385 years completely alone. Even the thought was enough to anger me. She looked down on my abilities and pride and rejected my will. She was cocky and stubborn. She wasn't the kind of person who could withstand such a huge amount of time alone. I approached Epheren. She hesitated but didn't back away. Ugh, I placed my hand on her head. It was small and light. You still have a lot to put into your head. I beg your pardon? Epheren narrowed her eyes. Epheren has returned to the future where Lochraylan has been destroyed, so you will never see each other again. Her sorrow was plain to see in her eyes, but I climbed out of the basement without a word. Hud de Killeen, you bastard! I met Rose Rio on the stairs walking back. She wasn't even aware that she had been stunned. Do you dare betray me? Follow me. Everything has been concluded. What? It's over. When we reached the lobby on the first floor, almost everyone in the society had already gathered. They were standing around awkwardly after being released. Among them, I noticed the president of the society, Lochraylan. Confused, he fiddled with his necklace, a chain around his collarbone with a blank look. Professor de Killeen. Professor de Killeen, did you solve it? I believed in you. The members of the conference arrived a moment later. I beckoned to Rose Rio. Rose Rio opened the door. Okay. Rose Rio dismantled ductility. Rumble, the blocked-off conference exit was exposed, allowing bright sunlight to beam in. Whoa, it's been 3 days since I've seen the sun. Professor de Killeen, I'm sorry I misunderstood you. Rose Rio murmured while some of the wizards went outside, glancing back at me. They didn't know about someone's sacrifice, so they could only show this kind of reaction. This is the president of the society, Lochraylan. This conference will be suspended due to an unfortunate incident. Lochraylan spoke using loudspeaker magic. Everyone, please head back to the hotel and rest. The check-in procedure will be conducted tomorrow. Everyone, please head back to the hotel and rest. Epheren glared at him, pouting, the next day. Drent, struggling with the aftermath of magical exhaustion, managed to recover to some extent, but all other conferences were cancelled. Lochraylan claimed that he would need time to reorganize, so it was time for them to leave. Reorganization. Couldn't you just destroy the entire society now? Then this won't happen again. It was an extremely reasonable question from Epheren, but I shook my head. There is no evidence. Even if there were, Kaidazite is a threat from the future. On the floating island, they will ask if the remaining time will be okay. An island crazy about magic, knowledge, and mystery. The outer surface of the floating island offered the image of rationality and intelligence, but the inside was rather savage and brutally cold. Professor Tilda, I already packed everything. Me too. I'll go on crutches. Those responses came from Alan and Drent, respectively. I nodded and opened the door out of the room. For me, I had a lot to think about later, starting with the advanced attribute catalog obtained as a quest reward. Professor, are we going to forget about today when we leave Lochraylan? Epheren raised the question in the hotel elevator. It depends on your mental strength, but for you, it will probably remain like a faint afterimage. Even if you don't completely forget it, you won't be able to recall the specifics. Epheren nodded with slight disappointment. Ding. The elevator reached the first floor. The hotel lobby was full today with people trying to leave Lochraylan. They greeted me, but I didn't bother to respond. We went straight out of the hotel and down the street. I'm sorry, Assistant Professor, I'm quite heavy, right? It's okay, Tilda. We're on the same team. Drent, still unwell, was being supported by Alan. I passed out like a fool. I didn't think I would pass out with just one word. That's true. It was kind of weird. Their words stirred my thoughts. I felt embers burning in my brain. Professor, Professor. A loud voice echoed from behind. Lochraylan was approaching, waving his hand. As soon as Epheren saw him, she puffed her cheeks and crossed her arms. I stared at him quietly as he rapidly drew closer. Ha 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 ha, are you leaving already? You should have dinner before going. I will be ready soon. Lochraylan didn't even seem to remember that he was the Kaidazite's host. It's fine. Oh, Tilda, okay. Still, I'm here to thank you. Thanks to you, the academy is intact. Humph, intact, my ass. Ephraim grumbled. Lochraylan glanced at her, then pointed at Drent behind them. Haha, I don't think I've seen him before. He's the wizard I mentioned before, the one who fainted with one word. Oh, Tilda, what a shame. But I guess you were really tired, huh? To faint with one word, that must be impossible. I'm sorry. Drent bowed his head, causing a bitter laugh to rise from Lochraylan. Wait. The fire in my head ignited, rising from a small flame into a blaze in an instant, Lochraylan. Yes, you said there's no way someone would faint with just one word. Yes, theoretically, yes. No matter how low your mental strength with one word. But this guy passed out. I pointed to Drent, who covered his face as if guilty. Well, he must have been tired at the time. Tell me another condition. Yes, another condition. If this guy passed out, it was probably the one that spoke that had a problem rather than him. I don't know. Lochraylan rubbed his chin as he pondered. It's probably a difference in mental power rather than magical power, I guess. Either he had a conversation with a future wizard possessing an incredible mental strength, or maybe he was exhausted. That was enough. I see. I remembered the moment when we first entered Lochraylan. That day, a wizard in a robe had passed by us like any other. Drent had unconsciously greeted them. And so, with just one line of incomplete information, just a single word to convey the facts. What I want to say to you is, Ephraim's unnaturally halted letter. Professor, what's wrong? When she was contemplating her words and her own time, something happened that surprised her. I imagined Ephraim writing the letter. She was someone who poured her heart, line by line, out onto that small note. She was so surprised that she couldn't even finish the letter. No, there was no need to end it, because what will happen will always happen. Yes, everyone turned to look at me. That cheeky bastard, who, instead of answering her, I pointed at Ephraim with my chin to Alan. Alan, taking the hint, forcibly dragged Ephraim away. The most up-to-date novels are published on Lightno Velpub Siam. Ephraim Tilda, let's get going first, Tilda. What? Why? No, wait. Letting Ephraim be dragged away, I turned back to Lochraylan. Lochraylan, call me in the not-too-distant future. Lochraylan smiled brightly. Oh, Tilda, of course. No one can be invited twice, but the conference will also be held in December. No. I cut off Lochraylan and sharpened my gaze. Don't put my name on the invitation list. Yes, call me secretly. My name should not be on that list. Only then would I be able to deceive his eyes. Ah, that's a little bit hard. According to Lochraylan's rules, do the rules matter now? Because of you, we almost died. I put my hand on Lochraylan's shoulder. Confused, he tilted his head. That could be a big risk. I say this for your own sake. If your name is not written on the list, later when you try to enter, I know. Rather, that's why I'm asking for this. I met Lochraylan's eyes. His pupils were moving randomly, avoiding my gaze. Gulp after a moment, Lochraylan swallowed hard and stroked the back of his neck, wiping away a layer of cold sweat. So, when do you want to? It doesn't matter when. I turned to watch Ephraim leaving. She kept glancing back at us. When I'm ready, I'll come on my own. At that moment, the sun was shining down upon the domed glass of Lochraylan, the light bending gently around it. You just need to open the door. Yes, all right, but why? I smiled and shook my head. There is no need to ask why. The passerby in a robe that Drent met. There was probably only one person in this world to have the mental power to stun him with just one word. From the beginning, I knew who he was, because this was what was going to happen. Dekilleen von Grahan Uklein. Last night, Ephraim's time while Dekilleen was stunned. Done. Ephraim successfully disbanded the Kaidazite, causing it to dissipate by releasing a tremendous amount of temporal energy throughout Lochraylan. Phew! Now what she had to do was simple. She had to endure 385 years, or 140,525 days, or 3,372,600 hours, in this limited space. It's fortunate that I have something to see, though. Ephraim looked at the stunned Dekilleen. His appearance didn't age in the slightest as ever or now. His paranoid cleanliness and refinement would be eternal despite the chaos and passage of time. I'll be back in a little bit. Ephraim, who spent a little while watching him, climbed the basement stairs. After passing by Rose, Rio, and Ephraim, who was sleeping soundly, she arrived at the lobby on the first floor. Phew, she let out a small sigh as she checked their stunned faces. She didn't miss a single one. Oh, right. Ephraim, who was going to check the second and third floors, turned around and went back down into the basement. I almost forgot the letter. I'll just write it now while I'm still full of energy. Deculline was still stunned. Ephraim looked at him and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. Let's see. To Professor Deculline, hello, this is Ephraim. She wrote with magic, not a pen. The carbon magic he invented was formed into graphite on the page. I'm sorry, Professor, but this is up to me, and this is just time. The mana and the air are stagnant here, making training impossible. It's a meaningless time where the only thing you can do is to think. It's a time that repeats, sweeping back and forth like waves on a beach. PFFT. As she read the words, she smiled, and something sprung up from within. Was this what they meant by transmitting your heart? Ephraim scribed down each letter with that sort of feeling. So, with just one line of incomplete information, just a single word to convey the facts. What I want to say to you is, however, thump. Ephraim's ears perked up sensitively. Her eyes went wide as she lifted her head. Thump. It was the sound of a foot falling, a sound that she couldn't and shouldn't hear. Ephraim's hand stilled. No way. Is there someone I haven't stunned yet? The entry and exit records were the same. She even made sure that Drent was stunned. At that moment, as she looked toward the entrance with chills running down her spine. That's ridiculous. A voice pierced her ears. It was too familiar, but in an impossible tone. For more, visit lightnovelpub.com. You're too sloppy. Whether or not he knew her surprise, the voice continued sarcastically until a man in black robes appeared from the dark. How can you say that you are my disciple? She just looked at him, rebuking her. Tears were already welling up in her eyes, and she was choked up, so she couldn't say anything. You are still stupid. The only one who could call her an archmage, stupid, the only person in this world. Watching him take off his robe, Ephraim covered her mouth with both her hands. Ah, it was Deculline. More precisely, the Deculline of the future. He wore a smile that was a little warmer than the current Deculline. You should have been more thorough. Then Ephraim's eyes drew a faint smile. At that moment, transparent tears fell from her eyes like a rainbow. I know, right? Ephraim wiped away the tears with the cuffs of her robe. I was too stupid. She lifted her head again and looked at him, crying as she laughed. Professor Deculline didn't like people who cried, but she couldn't help it at this moment. Her heart was pounding like crazy, her emotions now out of control. I should have been a little more thorough. And behind her, the small piece of paper fluttered and landed gently on the floor. A note that began with the shy sentence, to Professor Deculline. I am so stupid. Ephraim didn't end her note. That man was on the other side. He had come to her, so she didn't have to. I'm sorry, Professor. Concentrating on this moment, Ephraim felt a wave of guilt. And thank you. The years she was determined to handle alone. It seemed so infinitely satisfying. Chapter 99. The Imperial Magic Tower, 77th floor. Uriel visited the head professor's office while Deculline was on his business trip. Perhaps because its owner was away, security magic was set all over the place, but each spell stopped working when a certain someone snapped their fingers. What request did you take, Chairman Adrian? Uriel was caught by her in the middle of trying to sneak into the office room. However, this was better. I can't tell you that, it's work-related. Then I can ask Professor Deculline myself? Yes, please. Uriel nodded calmly and put the papers from her handbag on the desk. She had brought along documents related to the underground opening and Rohalak concentration camps as a pretext. Each was sealed with a magical security mechanism that would open after recognizing Deculline's fingerprints and iris. She turned to regard the chairman, who was still watching her. Could you go now, please? That's suspicious. That raised the antennae of the chairman's busybody personality. It seemed that her intuition was reacting. It was funny how she stared like a predatory mantis, but Uriel shook her head. It's work-related anyway, so that it won't be much fun. Humph, okay, I'll go for now. The chairman licked her lips but complied, walking outside. Only then could Uriel begin in full. She had something to look for. I like his personality at moments like this. She found what she sought quickly. Thanks to Dechiline's cleaning obsession, it caught her eye as soon as she opened the drawers. It was an untitled note. On the surface, it looked like something you could buy for 3 elnis at a stationery store, but it was by no means an ordinary notebook. This was one of the many items given to them by the former head of the family, Dechiliene, and she had her copy. As expected, it was here. Searching the mansion had proved fruitless, but the tower she came to as a last resort was the right choice. Uriel was going to figure out Dechiline's intentions with this. Her heart was still weak and cautious, and there were a lot of practical problems. Therefore, she chose this diary as a surefire way. Instead of moving hastily, she was trying to look into Dechiline's last feelings. Uriel put her diary in its place. As both were magical artifacts created by her father, there was no difference in appearance or function. And, above all, Uriel was convinced that Dechiliene would not look into this diary, the only one Dechiliene feared. That father could be seen in this diary any time he looked upon it. Now, so the moment she came out of his office. Uriel ran into someone she didn't want to see. The person approaching quickly noticed Uriel and glanced at her with wide eyes. Solda Uriel. It was Luina, beelining toward the head professor's office with some students. Uriel thought about Luina. Dechiliene had kidnapped her under some circumstances she wasn't aware of, but strangely, she had grown quiet these days. Rumors were now circulating that she had become Dechiliene's henchman. Uriel was curious about the story behind that bizarre event. Professor Luina, what's happening on the 77th floor? It's my brother's, HM. It's Lord Dechiliene's floor. I thought the professor was back because the security magic had stopped working. I have documents that need to be reapproved. Ah, that money-eating hippo. From behind the wall, the chairman appeared with a wild look in her eyes. Luina took a step back out of surprise while Uriel let out a sigh. What did she want to accomplish by eavesdropping like that? What a mess. Professor Luina. Do you know how much you've spent so far? Still, you want more. Those documents waiting for approval are for payment this time too, right? Approval to spend money. What can I do if it costs a lot, Chairman? And this is the keynote manager's responsibility anyway, isn't it? You can just leave it to him. We shouldn't have created the planning and coordination office. Hey, Tilda, apart from my project, the keynote makes a lot of money, right? The projects carefully selected by the professor were all successful. Luina, you are eating all those profits. Hey, Tilda, it can't be that much, Tilda. Are you kidding me? It is that much. It'll reach over 100 million elnis at this rate. Oh my, is it not yet at 100 million elnis? It's less than I expected. What? Listening carefully to their useless, but still related to the tower, talk, Uriel sneakily boarded the elevator. A blue summer afternoon without a single cloud in sight. After completing the entry and exit procedures for Lockraylan, marking exported items, search and inspection, etc. We boarded the train and arrived at Harwich Station. Whoa, we're finally back. Alan let out the exclamation while stretching. I looked up to the sky outside the car window for a moment. It was just an ordinary business trip, but it felt like a long journey had ended for some reason. I didn't know they would take my diary too. They're just doing this because they're afraid you'll have a problem with your memories. Alan responded to Ephraim's blunt self-talk. Yes, I understand, and, fortunately, I remember a bit. I guess my mental power isn't that bad. Right, Tilda? I don't remember much of the lectures, but what happened that day and the daily parts are fine. I only remember fainting. We disembarked the platform while chatting. Rose, Rio, and Credo, who happened to be on the same train, approached. Credo held out his hand first. Professor Dechiliene. You helped us this time again. Yeah. Hey, Professor Dechiliene, your skills are great. Why are you still a monarch? Sir Credo, thank you. Rose, Rio, you as well. I bid goodbye to them. Alan, Ephraim, and Drent stuck around to have a brief chat, after which we split up and headed down the... Oh my... Now in the heart of Harwich, Ephraim suddenly pointed off in a direction. The Pig's Flower. Ephraim stared blankly at the restaurant's entrance. It was a little different from the Pig's Flower restaurant near the Imperial University. It was an extremely high-end branch decorated in a much more luxurious way according to the style and concept of Harwich, the wealthiest village in the empire. Slurp, I, slewup. Ah, why can't I stop drooling? Julie said they would open a new branch this time, but I didn't think it would be in Harwich. Is it that delicious? At Alan's question, Efren nodded, not once, not twice, but 3, 4, 5 times. I produced my wallet. Alan, yes. Buy her a meal and then send her back. When I easily handed over a check for 10,000 elnies, Alan accepted it with a look of shock. That's too, you will end up using it all on eating. Harwich's prices are beyond imagination. Oh, yes, thank you, Professor. Alan took the check with trembling hands. Efren, watching me from the side, couldn't contain her smile. I will go first. Yes, thank you. Bye, Professor. Bye, Professor. Goodbye, Tilda. Farewells from Alan, Drent, and Efren, respectively. Without paying attention to them, I climbed into the prepared car. Looking outside the window, I could see Alan leading them into the restaurant. Let's go, Tilda. Hurry up, Tilda. Efren's steps were light, a bright smile covering her entire face. That Efren. Does that mean that in the future she will become an archmage? I smirked. Professor, how was your business trip? Julie, sitting quietly next to me, asked. I looked at her and nodded. Not bad. Julie smiled broadly, and I told the driver, let's go to the tower. Arriving at my tower office, I first produced the Advanced Attribute Catalog. It's a good reward. Unlike the item catalog, the Attribute Catalog was an immensely important item. There weren't many opportunities to obtain it in the game. However, Advanced was a bit vague. The order of attributes was ordinary, low-grade, intermediate, advanced, rare, unique, intrinsic. Here, ordinary and low-grade were bonuses that couldn't even be considered attributes like Psychokinesis Master, and only from intermediate and advanced onward could they at least be considered as such. 1. Common License. 2. Tiger's Throat. 3. Aggressive attack stance. No matter how far I scrolled down, I couldn't find anything useful. My eyes kept scanning down. What is this? I discovered an attribute with an unfamiliar name, encryption rating, advanced, description. The ability to encrypt the target by consuming magical power. However, living things cannot be encrypted. The output of the attribute is affected by the owner's mental power, encryption. The explanation was quite vague, but I liked that the trait was affected by mental power. Mental power was Deculine's only strength. But suddenly I found a small note on the desk. It was a note that wasn't there moments before. How did it appear? It was suspicious, but I glanced over its contents before tucking it away. Knock, knock, Professor. When I opened the door with psychokinesis, Alan entered with excitement written over her face. Professor, they have completed the grading evaluation on the floating island. It's an advanced lecture. Behind her were Efren and Drent. Drent bowed, and Efren hesitantly followed along. You're awesome, Professor. I turned to Alan, who was making the biggest fuss about it. Good, then let's start preparing for class in earnest. Yes. You, the 2 assistants, leave? Yes. I told the assistants to leave, but Alan tilted her head in doubt. Why the assistants? Drent and Efren. They both signed up for my class. Oh, right, that's right. Right, me too. Drent and Efren nodded. I naturally looked to Alan, so it's up to you and me to prepare for class. Ah, Alan looked disappointed. She must have been thinking of leaving the chores, including class preparations, to the newbies. Yes. You then, Io. Alan glanced behind her. The 2 assistants had already disappeared. Okay. She smiled again with resignation. I put a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry. Your name will be marked as a supervisor for this lecture, too. What? Her eyes widened in an instant. Even though it's an advanced lecture for an advanced lecture? Yes. This is. Looking at Alan, fidgeting restlessly, I thought quietly to myself. How could I, an assistant professor, ugh? She had a natural talent for acting. Asterisk. The upper part of the floating island was a space that no wizard dared to imagine. More precisely, it went against the common sense of everyone in the world. The Medjisen was the core and engine of the floating island, a building that stretched endlessly into the sky above the island. However, as each floor went up, it showed aspects of topography and the world rather than being inside a building. Some floating island levels were large enough to accommodate tens of thousands of people, while others only opened up to the sea, yet others still. The lecture submitted for examination by Professor de Killeen of the Monarch ranked the pure use of earth and fire, manipulation series. It was a cramped conference room. We authorized the unrestricted advanced judgment of the course. The ratings were taking place in front of many addicts and executives of the floating island. De Killeen's lecture, The Pure Use of Earth and Fire, Manipulation Series, would be considered an advanced lecture by magicians of all ranks. The course itself would be recorded as a career achievement. However, the lecture is to be attended by a recorder dispatched by the floating island, and the lecture information will be stored in the floating island's archives. Gindalf chuckled as he stroked his chin. Adrian, also present, nodded with satisfaction. The lecture will be recognized as de Killeen's work, and the protection period will last at least 10 years. In addition, accepting a handful selected from the floating island, de Killeen will choose the attendees. The protection period for de Killeen's work was set at a minimum of 10 years. Considering that the maximum was 15 years, it was a tremendously high valuation of his efforts. The floating island promises conveniences, such as providing a place de Killeen wants and subsidizing the costs, additionally storing de Killeen's lectures. That day, the advanced lecture judgment made on the floating island was sent directly out to the world. Famous wizards such as Rose Rio and Creto, Baton and Ihelm showed different reactions ranging from admiration, jealousy, and distrust. However, there was a small disturbance around each of them, regardless of how they felt. There was one wizard who couldn't even hear the news. Wheeing. This was the knife orbit, where a sharp and cutting gust of wind constantly blew. As one of the neighbors to the floating island, it was a dangerous area made of several smaller islands sparsely connected in the air. At one of those islands, a hand rose from a sheer cliff. Crash, the creature grabbed dirt and rocks. Its fair and white hands were covered with scars, and blood was oozing from its nails. It must be painful, but it only focused on the will not to fall. Woo-wash. Ugh. The owner of this hand was Sylvia. She did not lose sight of the ground she held tightly even as the wind caused her to sway. You lived bravely. At that moment, black high heels walked up to her. The heels pushed into the ground directly in front of her, causing grains of sand to spray around her in a mist. Sylvia looked up at the woman standing there. Dressed in a robe, she looked down at her as she applied lip balm. Give up, you'll be crippled. Despite her harsh words, Sylvia shook her head. I'm not giving up. You are eager to learn something. I understand why Rohakan, that old man, entrusted you to me. The woman smirked. Then let's see. She mused to herself in a heavy and husky voice for a moment. Then bring up her foot. She set her heel down upon Sylvia's hand upon the edge of the cliff. With the sound of her fingers cracking and her bones breaking, Sylvia fell down the cliff again. Are you Iliade's lion or just a broken wolf? The woman placed a cigarette in her mouth. TSS. She lit it with magic. The smoke, blown out, quickly whisked away by a gust of wind. The residence of Eucline. Uriel was with her faithful vassals. The butler Roll, the knight David, the wizard Regillin, and the maid Rachel. Their heavy breathing subsided in a fog as a tight tension settled over them, a sharp air that could break at any moment. This notebook was an item my father gave me. Uriel explained, pointing to de Killeen's diary placed on the desk. This diary is filled with the soul and magic of each of our days. No, in the first place, the material of this diary is our flesh. The vassals stopped breathing for a moment. Uriel held a frown as she recalled the events of the distant past, recalling the pain of being torn apart. The anesthesia hadn't helped, and she wept half-mad with pain, but Uriel endured because she was a Eucline. Flesh, what do you mean? Butler Roll asked the question with a slightly startled tone. Right. It's made from our skin and contains part of our circuits. A remote circuit, it's a monumental task to make one. Isn't my father amazing? Father de Killeen gave his children countless tasks, not only during his lifetime but also after his death. those countless trials might still be going on. Even if we don't keep the diary, send it far away, or even throw it away or try to tear it apart, our days and actions are specifically recorded. Her father said, it's an artifact that helps you develop yourself, but Uriel was not stupid. Of course, she knew. The real purpose of this diary was to monitor and evaluate them. Of course, the recorded memories are selective and unconscious, but at least they cannot be faked. As far as artifact production goes, it's the work of my father, who was said to be on the level of the eternal archmage. Decalain, the artist wizard of the century, sublimated the artifact itself into specialized magic. Although many of the artifacts he produced were magically weathered by time after his death, the things he left behind to his children with a medium, their flesh, were still the same. This key is for opening that passage. Uriel took out the key of Decalain. It was a treasure brought from the underground vault of the Eucline Lord's castle. It will be dangerous, but this is the only way for me to know right now. To put it simply, Uriel was about to enter Decalain's diary, but no one knew what kind of memories it held or how one could see them. Will he be the same as he was 1 year ago? Is he trying to use us and throw us away? Or did he change? Uriel pointed to Decalain's diary. I want to know that. Will you follow me? The vassals nodded with hardened expressions. Thank you. After a deep breath, Uriel put the key in the diary. The diary's cover was solid, but the key slid down as if slipping under the surface of the water. Whoosh! At that moment, the magic was awakened, and Uriel turned the key completely. The diary swallowed them up. Chapter 100. Uriel opened her eyes. The first thing she noticed was the white snow falling from the dark sky and landing upon her face. Uriel closed her eyes, wiped away the snow, and opened them again. All she could see was snow. The sky, the earth, and the horizon were all blanketed by snow. Uriel stood slowly and looked far away, beyond the snowfall that swayed before her like a thick curtain. There was an old house in this pure white world, a mansion with a roof and window frames covered in white. Uriel blinked. Where have my vassals gone? That was the first question she had. The 4 vassals who came with her were nowhere to be seen. Uriel, worried, decided to first approach the only place that wasn't completely covered. Rustle. She walked forward, her footprints engraved in the snow. Everyone, are you there? Arriving at the door of the mansion, she yelled out. There was no answer, and the door would not open even after shaking the doorknob. Ah! Uriel realized what she had to do and took out the key from her pocket. She slammed it into the locked door. There was no need for a keyhole. She just put it in and twisted. The door opened. Is anyone here? The inside was plain, like that of any old house someone could imagine. Tack, the sound of a crackling fire in the fireplace and the fragrant smell of tea. Uriel moved toward it as if possessed. She stopped as soon as she reached the living room. Near the fireplace sat a familiar person in a rocking chair. Decalain, he looked at her, holding a teacup in one hand and resting the other on the chair's armrest. Uriel. Uriel was nervous. If Decalain were here, there could only be one reason. Did you already know? He shook his head. It was a serious question, but the answer was bizarre. I am not Decalain. What are you talking about? I am your diary. What? Uriel frowned at the nonsense. Decalain, no, the diary that resembled Decalain explained. It is a guide for welcoming people who have entered this place, a learning intelligence designed by magic, and an existence embodied by the artifact. He put his mug down. That's me. Huh. Uriel was stunned for a moment, but it wasn't a total surprise. It was an artifact crafted by her father, Decalain, after all. The magic of an archmage, of course. Decalain was limited to the realm of artifacts, was something that an ordinary wizard's mind could never even dare to comprehend. Then what about my vassals? Those who do not have a key were briefly recorded by a security mechanism. Recorded, the diary held out 4 notebooks. Uriel hesitantly approached and took them. This. On the cover of the first plain notebook, a title reading roll was attached. It was the name of her butler that had been with her a long time. Read it, and you will know. Uriel opened to the first page. Scratch, new sentences were being recorded before her eyes in the notebook. I don't know where this is. But when I opened my eyes, it was in this world. No, is this even a world? As she read the page, Uriel's eyes grew in astonishment. More than anything else, I am worried about Miss Uriel. If this space is in the diary, I have no choice but to find her. Uriel raised her head. The artifact in the form of Deucalion was still calmly sipping at his teacup. What the hell is this? They were recorded into memory by a security mechanism. Since you own the key, you are protected from those security mechanisms. You mean these sentences are their thoughts? Yes. All of them are recorded. You look surprised. Uriel, read another, that of the escort knight David. I must hurry. I can only help the young lady when I'm ready and move forward. The next was the maid Rachel, and the last was the wizard Regillin. Their thoughts became mere letters. Uriel placed her hand on the back of her neck. It felt sore, and her head felt like it was about to explode. The diary continued. When magic reaches a certain point, it functions as true magic. It's different from psychokinesis or fireball in that dimension. I have come close to what can be called the truth. How do I undo it? There is a way. Don't worry, they are not dead. It's just a security mechanism. Uriel calmed herself. Then I'm going to look into Deucalion's memories. Feel free to do so. He stood from his seat, and Uriel followed. The two walked from the living room down the corridor on the right side. Countless picture frames hung on the walls of the long hallway. This whole thing is Deucalion's memory. You can look into anything. Really? However, it consumes mana doing so. Uriel stood in front of a certain frame. It was a framed picture of a familiar but awkward study. She recognized it as the permanent residence of the Eucline family, but it felt awkward because the furniture arrangement was different. Can I close my eyes? Yes. Yeah. Uriel peered into the frame. Your grades are good. At that moment, a voice rang out. Uriel turned toward its source. Ah! A groan unintentionally left her. In the study, her father, Deucalion, and Deucalion were standing together, but only the grades are good. Academic grades other than those from the tower are garbage. Father sat in his chair while admonishing Deucalion, who listened with his head bowed. When you were young, I thought you were a prodigy. Deucalion didn't say anything. He just stood still like a penitent sinner. In that case, rather Uriel know. As soon as his father mentioned her, Deucalion's eyes widened. Uriel remained silent as her father laughed. If you know that, you should be better. I will. I swear you don't need to. Just take this. Her father handed Deucalion something. Deucalion, that is your choice. It will be a heartbreaking pain, but you're not afraid of that, right? Yes, of course. The memory of the first frame stopped there. Uriel looked at the picture frame next to it. This time it was in a hallway, not the study of the Eucline house. Deucalion was standing by the window and looking out. Under the sunlight, his gaze reached her, looking at a young Uriel. Why are you looking at me? Uriel asked so bluntly. Then Deucalion turned around. May I ask? It was exquisite timing. Surprised, Uriel corrected her tone without realizing it. Master Deucalion. At that moment, another voice spoke up. Surprised, Uriel looked around, a wave of nostalgia crashing over her. Adele, Deucalion's stepmother, and her mother. Uriel struggled to suppress her outcry, "Are you okay?" Adele asked, but Deucalion didn't answer. Adele smiled bitterly and walked over to stand beside him. If Uriel becomes a wound to the master, just go away. Deucalion turned away as if he didn't want to hear it. The second memory ended there. Ugh, sigh. I need to look at recent memories. Although she saw only 2 memories so far, Uriel leaned against a wall in the hallway for a moment to catch her breath. Mental and magical exhaustion wrecked her body. I knew that one day the 2 of you would visit me. Then a voice came from the end of the hallway. Uriel glanced up. Did you know? Then the polite diary looked back at her. He was standing alone in the living room. Uriel frowned as she regarded him. Wait, you two? Nodding, he handed Uriel a note. Her eyes nearly popped out of her head. An hour ago, late dawn at the tower. After preparing for the professors and taking care of my other duties, I took out the diary from the drawer. Untitled notes containing memories, but this wasn't my diary. The information reflected in vision marked it as Uriel's diary. I still didn't know why she stole my diary, but the cover was strange. The paper shook like liquid, rippling out under my touch. I didn't think it would be an ordinary artifact. I looked at it with understanding. The diary itself contained human magic circuits and some soul fragments resonating together. Maybe it was Uriel's work. Was it a paired artifact? As if my diary and Uriel's diary were linked. Judging by the almost identical structure and operation, they were artifacts created as a pair from the beginning. The function itself is similar to a portal, but I turned off the understanding switch. Just with that brief analysis, 2,000 units of my mana were consumed. It is too risky to enter alone. Having concluded that, I first left the office and reached the teaching lab in the dark hallway. There was still light being reflected behind the glass. I approached and looked inside. Only Ephraim remained in the spacious lab. Her desk was full of magic theory books, but the owner had fallen asleep, buried in the large tomes. I opened the door to the lab. Phew, phew. I listened to her loud breathing as I took out the pendant. Fee, fee. I saw the young Ephraim, who smiled brightly, and a man with a stiff face in my mind's eye. In Lockralen's still vivid memories, that future archmage was Ephraim. Phew, phew. Did she become an archmage because my existence changed the world line? Or in the original storyline, had she become an archmage in the future? I remembered the two archmages I met as a player. The creator, Sylvia, and the last fairy, Adrian. There could be only 3 archmages in an era. I looked at Ephraim. She took off her robe as the room grew hot and stuffy. However, due to the nature of the 77th floor, it would become much colder at night. You're still full of doubts. I picked up the robe that had been scattered haphazardly to the side and put it over her back at that moment. I had a good idea. If it were her, she might be of some help. I glanced alternately between the diary I held in one hand and Ephraim. Snap! I flicked my finger to turn off the light. The lab darkened. After placing a note with Midas's hand under the stand's light, I returned to the principal professor's office. And, 10 minutes later, Ephraim, who slept with her forehead pressed down atop the desk, slowly opened her eyes. She carefully looked around and then lifted her head. What? She woke up as soon as D'Quilin opened the door due to his overbearing energy. What is this? Covering me with a robe, ugh. She felt chills run down her back. Ephraim scratched her neck and recalled what he had murmured. You're still full of doubts. Ugh, more chills. Full of doubts, even the way he said it was soft. Why is that professor doing this? What is this again? Ephraim found a small note on the desk. It was a strange piece of paper. She tilted her head as she read it and sneaked out of the lab. She beelined it to the head professor's office. Ahem. Ephraim pretended to have just woken up as she grabbed the doorknob of D'Quilin's office, holding only the note in her hand. Ah, Tilda. She forced a yawn, filling half tears in her eyes while opening the door. Professor, I just woke up a few minutes ago. What is this note? She glanced inside, but D'Quilin wasn't in the office. There was only a solitary notebook on his desk. What is this? Ephraim blinked a few times, her expression one of innocence. Inside the diary was a world full of snow. There was nothing but pure white snow and the old house on the other side. Therefore, it was instinct to approach that old building. Did Uriel open it? The door was already open. I dusted off the snow covering me and went in. A fire was crackling away in the empty living room. Tap at the sound of footsteps, I turned. You look like me. A man that was my clone stood there. He nodded expressionlessly and replied, I am a diary. Whose diary? Yours and her diary. Your memories are written on me. I pondered for a moment before questioning him. Where is Uriel? She's looking at your memories. He pointed to the hallway on the right. Is she okay? Uriel has the key. I didn't know what that key was, but it appeared to mean that she was safe. I looked to the left. If the right side is mine, the left side is Uriel's. Yes. Then the bonfire smoldered into ashes. A blizzard arrived, plunging us into darkness. However, the windows were closed. In that bizarre environment, I looked at the madman who introduced himself as a diary. You are full of death. The diary glanced me over before finally speaking. Hide. I paused. You know what? Death is by my side. Every particle is visible to my eyes, but from you, the face, voice, and atmosphere of the diary. In each of them, a death variable swelled like a bubble. You're full of killing aura. The diary held no expression as he nodded calmly. Who knows? I laughed a little. He looked like me, but he wasn't me. More precisely, even the model wasn't me. His original body was someone who resembled me, no, someone who looked like Deculain. Your model is Decalain, not me. The diary's eyebrows twitched. It's natural because it's his work. The diary, which had been listening to me quietly, then nodded. Yes, I am the master's work, a magical personality created for his succession. Is it the succession of the Eucline line? Yes, the master had no intention of deciding the succession issue so easily. Because the master didn't trust you. He didn't trust me. Yes, that's sad. At that moment, a quest appeared before my eyes, independent quest. Family, the diary spoke to me as I read the quest outline with a face that flowed with life. Hide. I didn't answer. Week. The dark and the snow intertwined to form a shape. The diary spoke again. Hide. I do not hide. The man's complexion changed. Hide. The security mechanism is coming. No need to. The diary shut its mouth. Of course, that didn't mean I had a special way of dealing with it. The entirety of this old house was already a death then. You, too, can only be recorded. The corners of the diary's lips twisted as I stared intently into his eyes. Weeing. The dark blizzard blew past me as a fierce gust of wind engulfed my body. The blizzard subsided, calming down. The diary stared at the notebook lying on the floor with cold, sunken eyes. I knew that one day you would visit me. It began to speak to itself. Did you know? Uriel, after observing the two frames, came out. She sighed at her exhaustion, but suddenly looked up. Wait, you two, who? In response, the diary handed Uriel a notebook. Uriel's eyes widened when she saw the name written on the notebook. Deculain. Of course, it is Deculain. Deculain had become a notebook.